Chapter 325. You weren't the one who let them in. Don't push the blame onto yourself. Zishang rubbed Yunjioga's head. As long as this little head was fine, nothing else mattered to him. You're not a good person either. Yunjioga glared at him. Of all the demons and ghosts, demons were indeed the worst. Just look at Zishang and you'll know. Zishang rubbed his nose and silently retreated to the side. A woman who liked to vent her anger on others was not to be trifled with. Wu, senior brother Yunjio, we don't want to die. Many of the rank 2 disciples began to cry. They had gone through so much to get here, but they had not expected that they would become nourishment for the human-faced peaches. This was too cruel. Don't worry, I won't feed you to the human-faced peaches. These low-level disciples were from the same sect as her. They had always been cultivating honestly and had never made any mistakes. They should not die here. That's not up to you to decide. A loud voice rang out from behind Yunjioga. Yunjioga turned around and saw that Wolf Fang and the Han brothers had brought the outer sect disciples over. Although the 3 of them had encountered danger after entering the pocket dimension, they had always been cautious. Thus, their losses were not too great. Basically, each of them had left behind 500 disciples. Adding up to 1,500 people, they were able to completely crush Yunjioga's group. What is the meaning of this, senior brother Han? Yunjioga looked coldly at the incoming group. Where's senior brother Su? Han Xiaoxi did not answer the question. He looked left and right and did not see Su Juanqing's figure. Could it be that he had died? That was impossible. That brat had obtained many benefits from Elder Mo Hua and he also had the Yin corpses protecting him. Even if they all died, he would not die. Senior brother Su and senior sister Bailan are behind. Yunjioga replied lightly, then asked, how does senior brother Han plan to pluck the human-faced peaches? She did not believe that the disciples behind the Han brothers would be willing to die. Hee. Han Xiaoxi glanced at Yunjioga and the rest with a malicious look. Naturally, the weaklings will go first. What he meant was that he wanted to force Yunjioga and the rest to go first, so that they could sit back and reap the benefits. Dream on. Ice Heart Lotus was enraged. Frostbone spikes burst out with Yin Qi. Little Fatty and the Lu sisters also took out their bone spears. Junior apprentice brother Bing, junior apprentice brother Jin Lin, junior apprentice brother Yunjio, and junior apprentice sister Lu, there's no need to be so angry. The weaklings I'm talking about aren't you guys. Why don't you all come over to our side? When the time comes, everyone will hand over the human-faced peaches together and the sect will split the rewards together. Han Xiaoxi chuckled, planning to split Bing Xinlian and the others up. The disciples of peak number 2 became nervous. They were afraid that Ice Lotus and senior brother Yunjio would really abandon them. Yunjioga nodded and said, senior martial brother Han is right, the weak go first. Senior brother Ninth Cloud. Ice Heart Lotus widened her eyes in disbelief. She could not believe that the person she admired would be so heartless. Yunjioga ignored him and continued to speak to Han Xiaoxi, so, you guys go first. What? Han Xiaoxi thought he had misheard. Didn't you say that weaklings go first? Yunjioga raised his eyebrows and glanced at him with disdain. Then why don't you hurry up and go in to pick the peaches? Before Han Xiaoxi could regain his senses, the disciples of peak number 2 were already cheering. Ice Heart Lotus and Little Fatty even pointed their middle fingers at Han Xiaoxi excitedly, coward, weakling, you guys go first. I say, junior brother Ninth Cloud, are you blind or did a donkey kick you in the head? Can't you tell who's the weak one? Han Xiaoxi was so angry that he laughed. Ignoring the strength of the 2 brothers and Wolf Fang, the disciples behind them had all been eliminated through several dangerous situations. Even the weakest among them was Qi Refinement Level 3 and their battle abilities were very strong. Although there were more than 700 disciples on peak number 2, more than half of them were stage 2 disciples. How could they fight against them? Of course, Yunjioga was not kicked by a donkey. At that moment, Zi Shang was squatting on a tree not far from Wolf Fang and the Han brothers. With a single command from her, she could chop off their heads and feed them peaches. However, Yun Jilga did not want to do that. She took out her bone spear and said to the Han brothers, "We'll know who's stronger after a battle." "Alright, then let us fight you." Han Xiaodong jumped out first. 2 against 1. "Aren't you too shameless?" Ice Heart Lotus said angrily. "We brothers have always fought together. If you're afraid of death, just admit defeat." Although Han Xiaodong looked like a butcher, he was actually very cunning and never underestimated his enemies. No matter who he faced, he would fight together with his brothers. "Senior brother Ninth Cloud, I'll fight with you." Ice Heart Lotus pulled out her bone spear, looking full of fighting spirit. "There's no need. Stand down." Yun Jilga had her own reasons for challenging the Han brothers. She was not acting on impulse. "Junior brother Ninth Cloud, you have guts." Han Xiaodong gave a thumbs up. Before he finished his sentence, a bone spear that looked like a dog-beating stick smashed towards her face. Han Xiaoxi also took out his bone spear to seal off Yun Jilga's path. The two brothers attacked without even saying a word. They were extremely despicable. If it were anyone else, they would have fallen for it. Thankfully, Yun Jilga was prepared. With a wave of her psychedelic bone spear, a black mist instantly spread and covered her figure. The Han brothers immediately became cautious when their attacks missed. They immediately recalled their bone spears and carefully examined the black mist in front of them. "Zi Shang, come in." Yun Jilga silently called out to the mark. "What's the matter?" Zi Shang jumped into the black mist from the tree. "When I attack later, help me hold the Han brothers in place. However, don't let them notice anything amiss." Yun Jilga did not have time to waste with the two brothers. She had to strike them with one strike and completely scare them. However, she could not do it with her current strength. She could only ask Zi Shang for help. "Where's the reward?" Yun Jilga had not asked him for help in a long time. He would be a fool if he did not seize the opportunity to ask for the reward. "For you." Yun Jilga generously wrapped her arms around Zi Shang's neck and kissed him on tiptoe. Zi Shang's left hand embraced her waist and deepened the kiss while his right hand groped her body. The Han brothers never expected their opponent to be in the mood to hide in the black mist and kiss in such a tense battle atmosphere. Furthermore, his actions were getting more and more erotic. "Xiaoxi, why don't we force our way in?" Han Xiaodong looked at the calm black mist solemnly. The bone spear in his hand shone with a cold light. Back when he and his younger brother wandered about, they were chased by people and dogs. They had suffered countless hardships, so when he was refining his bone spear, he subconsciously refined a dog-beating stick. "Let's go." Han Xiaoxi nodded without hesitation. Chapter 326. The Han brothers were tough. No matter what kind of strong opponent they faced, they would always attack, and attack. Not to mention that their current opponent was only an outer disciple at the third stage of Qi disciple. If they still cowered like this, wouldn't they be a laughing stock? The two brothers raised their bone spikes at the same time and attacked the black mist one after the other. Inside the black mist, Yun Jilga was dizzy from Zi Shang's kisses and was desperately trying to push his chest away. This guy was really insatiable. She just wanted to kiss him once, and he actually stuck his tongue in. Now, he was still hugging her tightly and wouldn't let go. Now that the Han brothers were here, what did he want? Zi Shang was addicted to kissing her and couldn't bear to let her go. His left hand tightened and his right hand waved casually. The black mist from the bone spikes expanded and instantly engulfed the Han brothers. Then, Yun Jilga's 4 bone spikes, Bone Breaker, Hallucination, Venom, and Bloodthirst, shot out terrifying rays of light and sent the Han brothers flying. The Han brothers fell face down and dug 2 deep ditches in the ground. Finally, they crashed into the rock wall and fainted. Silence. Deathly silence. Ice Heart Lotus and Fatty's cheers were stuck in their throats. The Lu sisters' eyes widened and they looked like they were about to explode. Wolf Fang stared at the 4 bone spikes hovering above the black mist. Although they were beyond recognition, he could still recognize them as the Gale wolf bone he sold to the mysterious masked man. So this junior brother Yunjiu was the expert who helped him remove the poison. Wolf's deep eyes stared at the black fog that was constantly rolling. Although he couldn't see anything, he could imagine the devilishly beautiful junior brother Yunjiu standing there in high spirits. High spirits? This was a huge misunderstanding. Yunjiu was kissed so hard that she wanted to bang her head against the wall. She could tolerate having sex with Zi Shang in the wild, in a cave, or even with a horse, but she couldn't tolerate having sex in front of thousands of people. Although the black mist was blocking it, it was still very embarrassing. Fortunately, Zi Shang knew Yunjiu's bottom line. Although he felt that there was nothing wrong with having a round of dual cultivation here, he did not dare to really anger Yunjiu. In the end, he reluctantly let go of her. F***ck, this old lady is begging you again. Stab my eyes and break my little dick. Yunjiu fiercely wiped her mouth. Even if she had to fight the Han brothers to the end, it would be better than being trampled on by him. Keep your eyes. You can cut them when they grow out. Zi Shang laughed like a cat that had stolen a fish. Laugh your ass. Yunjiu glared at him. After retrieving the psychedelic bone spike, the black fog immediately dissipated. Senior brother Yunjiu, are you alright? The Lu sisters, Ice Heart Lotus, and Little Fatty immediately surrounded him. I'm fine. Yunjiu tried to put on a cold expression. Fortunately, her face was bewitching enough. After kissing for a long time, her light purple lips only turned dark purple. It was impossible to tell that she had been kissed forcefully. Did you see that? Our senior brother Yunjiu is not afraid of you. If you dare to call us weak, we'll beat you to death. Little Fatty shouted arrogantly. Junior brother Yunjiu, according to the sex mission, we must pluck 2,500 human-faced peaches from all 5 peaks. Otherwise, the exit of the little secret realm will not open, and we will be trapped here until we die, Wolf Fang said calmly. If possible, he did not want to send his fellow disciples to their deaths. But the sex orders could not be disobeyed. If they did, they would all die together. I didn't say that we won't pluck the human-faced peaches. Yunjiu just did not want to use the lives of his disciples. Then what do you mean? Wolf Fang could tell that this junior brother Yunjiu was not a foolish person. Could it be that he really had a good idea? These human-faced peaches need to be fed with flesh and blood to ripen. But it doesn't have to be our flesh and blood. If we can find other demonic beasts, we can do the same. This was Yunjiu's plan. There were many demonic beasts in the Death Swamp and Lizard Grassland. If they were used to feed them, they could similarly ripen the human-faced peaches. Catching demonic beasts would only result in more deaths than plucking the human-faced peaches. Wolf Fang felt that this idea was simply wishful thinking. At that time, if the disciples died and the demonic beasts could not be caught, that would be a double loss. As long as we can grasp the right method, there won't be too many casualties. I can guarantee that there will be fewer deaths than now. Yunjiu naturally dared to say such words because he was confident. What idea do you have? Zi Shang and Wolf Fang asked at the same time. I have a beast drawing pill here that can attract demonic beasts over. At that time, we can set up a trap and capture them easily. Yunjiu felt that this was the best idea. Senior brother Yunjiu, this is a good idea. Right, I think so too. Catching demonic beasts is better than killing our fellow disciples. That's not true. No one wants to die. If you force me to pluck those disgusting peaches, I'll fight it out with you. Not only were the disciples of the second peak tempted, even the disciples behind Wolf Fang and the Han brothers were tempted. 2,500 human-faced peaches. Even if all the disciples of the second peak were sacrificed, that would only be 700 or so. The remaining 1,800 would still have to be filled with their lives. No one wanted to die. Fine, I agree. Wolf Fang nodded his head in agreement. He had already decided that Yun Jioge was the expert who had saved him. He would take advantage of the opportunity to curry favor with him in the future. That's good. We'll go down and kill 2 demonic beasts later to see if we can hasten the ripening of the human-faced peaches. If these human-faced peaches only ate fresh corpses, that would be troublesome. There's no need for you to personally kill 2 demonic beasts. I can just send a few people down. When Wolf Fang made up his mind to curry favor with someone, he was truly meticulous in every aspect. Other than the lizard grassland and death swamp, which were more dangerous, the other places were still very safe. Killing 2 demonic beasts was not a difficult task. Wolf Fang sent 10 high-level disciples down to kill the demonic beasts and woke the Han brothers up. Kill! The moment Han Xiaodong regained consciousness, the bone spear in his hand shot out. Han Xiaoxi did the same. Even if the 2 brothers were to die, they would drag someone down with them. Wolf Fang nimbly dodged their attacks and sent a kick over. Wake up, everything's fine now. Everything's fine now. Han Xiaoxi opened his eyes and saw that Yun Jioge was still standing not far away. He immediately jumped up in alarm. Junior apprentice brother Yun Jio has a beast drawing pill. He said that it would be more convenient to catch demonic beasts to feed the human-faced peaches. Wolf Fang briefly explained the situation. So that's how it is. What a great idea. Han Xiaoxi's expression immediately changed as he praised Yun Jio vigorously. After being sent flying by Yun Jioge, they had already listed him as someone they could not afford to provoke. They immediately lowered their pride and tried to curry favor with him. Moreover, they also felt that this method was the best. This time, more than half of the disciples from the various peaks had died in the secret realm. It would not be easy to gather 2,500 human-faced peaches. After all, no one wanted to die. At that time, there would be a chaotic battle. If they could really use demonic beasts to feed the human-faced peaches, it would save them a lot of trouble. Just as everyone was talking, the disciples who had gone out to look for demonic beasts returned with 2 armored crocodiles. Bai Lan, Su Junqing, and the rest also came with them. Chapter 327. Junior brother Yun Jio is truly capable to think of such a good idea. Bai Lan was beginning to admire this junior brother Yun Jio more and more. Not only was he extraordinarily handsome, he was also extraordinarily intelligent and had a high cultivation base. He was definitely the #1 choice for a Dao companion. Bai Lan, who had only ever played with Yun Jio for one night, was actually tempted to become Dao companions with him. Su Junqing could vaguely sense Bai Lan's thoughts. His jealousy intensified, and his desire to kill intensified. Yi Yunji seemed to have sensed his thoughts, and a sharp glint flashed across her empty eyes. Cut the crap, hurry up and give it a try. The Han brothers hurriedly called for the disciples to bring the carcasses of the armored crocodiles over, and then placed them before Yun Jio fawningly. Junior brother Yun Jio, I'll have to trouble you. Yun Jio did not decline. She drew a line on the carcasses of the 2 armored crocodiles before throwing them into the peach forest. Then, she directed the bone spears to cut off the peaches from the 2 children's heads and let them land on the carcass. The eyes of the 2 children immediately turned bloodshot, and they pounced towards the smell of blood, sucking the carcass dry in an instant. Finally, they closed their eyes and matured peacefully. With a wave of his hand, Yun Jio summoned the 2 human-faced peaches back. After a careful look, he passed them down to Wolf Fang and the Han brothers for inspection. It works. Wolf Fang confirmed that the carcasses could also mature the human-faced peaches. The Han brothers nodded in agreement. That's great. The Lu sisters held each other's hands excitedly. Being able to avoid a chaotic battle was also a great benefit to them. The lower-level disciples let out enthusiastic cheers, as if they could already see the light of victory. Junior brother Yun Jio, then you should start sending out the beast-attracting incense now. Wolf Fang's intention was for the various peaks to act separately. The sooner they plucked the human-faced peaches, the sooner they could leave this godforsaken place and report to the sect about the changes in the little secret realm. The Han brothers also expressed their agreement. There was no need for an alliance at this point, so it was best for them to go their separate ways. Junior brother Yunjiu, the remaining disciples of each peak are different now. It's too unfair for each team to hand over 500 demonic beasts. Bai Lan had the fewest disciples left. She felt that it was not worth it to kill the same number of demonic beasts as the others. Junior brother Yunjiu, these are all low-level disciples. Why don't you say it's fair? Han Xiaoxi couldn't stand Bai Lan's haggling. That's right. That's why I think it's better to split the disciples from each team equally. That's the fairest way. Bai Lan wanted to use some low-level disciples from Peak 2 as cannon fodder. The disciples of Peak number 2 became nervous again. They were afraid that Yunjiu would agree. After all, this suggestion sounded quite fair. There's no need to split them. We'll split them according to the number of people. Everyone will get one Yao beast. If someone hunts a lot of them, they can sell them to others. Yunjiu didn't think that giving out his disciples would lessen the pressure. He might as well keep them all. That's fine too. Bai Lan immediately agreed. If they handed it over according to the number of people, the ones with higher cultivation would definitely have an advantage. Wolf Fang and the Han brothers did not say anything. This suggestion was more beneficial to them. At the very most, they could kill a few more beasts and give them to junior brother Yunjiu as compensation. That way, they could do him a favor. The beast-attracting incense I refined is very powerful. Every time I release one incense, it can attract over 100 demonic beasts. The beast-drawing incense that Yunjiu refined did not look very eye-catching. It was black and only the size of a thumb. However, it was very useful. Once it was ignited, it would release a fragrance filled with the scent of a female. All the male beasts within a 2-mile radius would be attracted by the fragrance. Junior brother Yunjiu, don't worry. We definitely won't waste these beast-drawing incenses. The Han brothers stared at the beast-drawing incense without blinking. Junior brother Yunjiu's pills, what else do we have to doubt? Bai Lan extended her hand towards Yunjiu with a smile. This beast-drawing incense is made from the essence blood of a female fragrant beast. You know that this female fragrant beast is worth 1,000 spirits. That bit of essence blood is not easy to get. Yunjiu played with the beast-drawing incense in his hand and refused to hand it over. Actually, she had only used a bit of the essence blood of the female fragrant beast to refine these pills. The rest was supplemented with medicinal herbs, so the cost was not high. However, it was impossible for her to give it to these people for free. Junior brother Yunjiu, how much do you intend to sell it for? Wolf Fang asked directly. Junior brother, we are not rich. You can just collect as much as you want, the Han brothers said bitterly. It's fine if it's too expensive. We can't afford it. Bai Lan was also reluctant to spend this money. We are all disciples of the same sect. Why would I take your money? The cost price is 1,000 spirit jade each. This price was considered fair. Yunjiu was only earning half of it. We will take 5. Wolf Fang took out 5,000 spirit jade without hesitation. Senior brother Wolf Fang is really straightforward. I admire you. Yunjiu was in a good mood as he handed over 5 beast-drawing incense. Wolf Fang took the incense and checked it. After confirming that there were no problems, he said to the disciples behind him, everyone split it equally. 100 spirit jade per person. At this moment, there were more than 500 disciples left on Peak 1. Wolf Fang could still earn some hard work if each of them were to pay 100 spirit jade. 100 spirit jade was not expensive. These disciples were all convinced. The Han brothers and Bai Lan followed suit and each bought 3 beast-drawing incense from Yunjiu. Then, they each took 100 spirit jade from their subordinates. On Peak 2, Little Fatty had already taken the initiative to help Yunjioge and his disciples collect the spirit jade. Some low-level disciples who did not bring enough spirit jade would use contribution points or other materials as collateral. The atmosphere was very lively. Su Junqing naturally did not have the qualifications to take the beast-drawing incense. Everyone had already tacitly agreed that the leader of Peak 2 was Yunjioge. Su Junqing's thumbnail pierced deeply into his palm. He kept telling himself to endure. When the human-faced peaches ripened, he would definitely let these fellows know his prowess. Yi Yunji stood beside him. A sharp glint flashed in her eyes. Junior brother Yunjio, I will go to the north. Bai Lan said after keeping the spirit jade. The east was the lizard grassland, and the south was the death swamp. The west and north were much safer in comparison. I will go to the east. The evil weapons in Wolf Fang's storage bag had a suppressive effect on the blood earth dragons in the lizard grassland. Junior brother Yunjio, where are you going? Han Xiaoxi asked carefully. Although they had more people and higher cultivation, they should be going to the death swamp. But junior brother Yunjio might have other plans. I will go to the south. Yunjioge's side had more than 700 people. They needed the most demonic beasts. They did not know what the situation was like in the west. The death swamp was more abundant in demonic beasts. Moreover, with Zishang protecting them, she felt that there would not be any big problems. Zishang patted her head in approval. Good job. Although Yunjioge did not know why Zishang was so enthusiastic, he felt more at ease. Chapter 328. Junior brother Yunjio is indeed righteous. Han Xiaodong gave him a thumbs up, looking like he was impressed. However, it was unknown how much sincerity was in his words. Senior brother Han, you flatter me, Yunjioge replied plainly, then said to the crowd, let's meet here in 5 days. 5 days was enough time to kill the demon beasts. Most importantly, the mystic realm would open in 10 days, so they had to prepare in advance. All right. The people of Wolf Fang sect nodded and bade farewell. Yunjioge led the disciples of Peak number 2 towards the east. Senior brother Yunjio, can we really kill that many demon beasts? Lu Tian'er was not confident. There were too many low-level disciples here. A few armored crocodiles could kill them all. You'll know when the time comes. There was no use in talking. Facts spoke for themselves. After Yunjioge led the people down the mountain, they began searching for a suitable place to set the trap. It has to be about 1 kilometer away from the death swamp. It's best if it's not too flat and empty. Yunjioge briefly explained the requirements of the trap. Little Fatty and Ice Heart Lotus immediately began searching. Unfortunately, the spots they found were not ideal. This is not bad. Zishang walked around and finally chose a light brown marsh. Yunjioge went over to take a look. The marsh was about half an acre wide and 1 person deep. It was diagonal to the death swamp. It was exactly 1 kilometer away and there were many weeds and rocks around it. The armored crocodiles would need to spend some effort to climb over. It was a very good spot. Let's set the trap here. Yunjioge was very satisfied with the marsh. She gathered the disciples of Peak number 2 and arranged them into 5 teams according to their elemental attributes. As the Yin Qi was of the earth attribute, the disciples with the earth attribute were the most. There were more than 300 of them. The next most were the ones with the wood attribute. There were also more than 200 of them. There were more than 100 metal, water and fire attribute spiritual roots. Ice Heart Lotus was the only one with the ice attribute. Senior brother Yunjio, these armored crocodiles have thick skin and extremely high defense. It's very difficult for our attacks to penetrate their skin. Lu Mei spoke from the bottom of her heart. The bone spikes of these rank 2 disciples were the ones given by the sect. They had very low attack power. It would take 100 people to kill 1 armored crocodile. Gathering 700 would be a huge problem. The armored crocodiles have high defense, but their spirit power is very weak. We just need to destroy their consciousness. Yun Jioga had naturally researched the weaknesses of the armored crocodiles. How are we going to destroy his consciousness? The disciples looked at each other, feeling as if they were listening to a heavenly book. Everyone should have learned the corpse control curse before, right? Yun Jioga asked. Yun said. The Lu sisters nodded. This corpse control incantation was the Yin corpse sect's most basic incantation and could be exchanged for with 10 contribution points. Although most of the disciples did not refine their own Yin corpses, they would still learn this incantation, hoping that one day they would be able to find a good Yin corpse and walk on the path of being able to call the wind and call the rain. But the one controlling the seventh ant was the Black Fiend sect. These low-level disciples couldn't compare to them. They needed to use a special method. Disciples with the same spirit roots, split into groups of 10. Then practice using the corpse control curse like how we attacked the Yin ghosts. As long as these disciples could meet this requirement, they could increase the corpse control curse's power by 5 times. Killing the armored crocodiles wouldn't be a problem. This method sounded simple, but it required a high level of cooperation and absolute trust. These low-level disciples would go to the Yin Chi cemetery every day after entering the sect, so their cooperation was very good. With Yun Jioga's protection, he didn't have to worry about being stabbed in the back. That was how he met the requirements. Okay. The Lu sisters and Little Fatty felt that Yun Jioga's idea was reliable and immediately became excited. They all had earth spirit roots, so they each formed a group of 10. This was the fastest and had the best results. The other disciples followed suit and quickly got into the zone. Then what do we need to do? Ice Heart Lotus wasn't willing to be a wallflower on the side. You guys are in charge of guarding the side. When the time comes, we'll need to rely on your frost chi to control the armored crocodile's movements. Yun Jioga also gave Ice Heart Lotus a task. He wanted her to lead the remaining disciples in charge of defense. No problem. Ice Heart Lotus readily agreed. The Frost Yin Chi Palm was a routine they were used to, so it was very easy to organize. But the most important thing now is to set up this trap. Yun Jioga led the disciples to widen and deepen the depression. Then, he took out a bunch of gray stones and a bunch of yellow weeds. Isn't this gray stone and dry yellow grass? What does senior brother Yunjio plan on doing with them? Ice Heart Lotus had done some research on herbs and ores. Put some into the depression to add some ingredients to the armored crocodiles. Yun Jioga said while organizing. These 2 herbs and ores were discovered by pill masters. Unfortunately, they didn't have much use in alchemy. In the end, they were only used to glue stones together when building houses and walls for nobles. Yun Jioga got the fire spirit root disciple to melt all the gray stones. Then, he mixed it with the dry yellow grass and slowly poured it into the depression. The calm depression immediately started to bubble. The already sticky soil became even thicker and even more sticky. No matter how strong the armored crocodiles were, they wouldn't be able to climb out of the depression easily. Alright, everyone hide. I'm going to release the beast-attracting incense. Attack together when I give the order. Yun Jioga ordered. All the disciples immediately split into groups of 10 and spread out. These low-level disciples didn't have much attack power, but they were very good at hiding. Many of them even brought concealment equipment in their storage bags. In an instant, the empty wasteland was filled with rocks of all sizes and lush saplings. It was difficult to hide from high-level cultivators with these crude disguises, but it was not a problem for them to hide from the armored crocodiles. Yun Jioga also stabbed his 4 bone spikes into the ground and released Yin Chi to hide his human scent. She waited for all the disciples to hide before lighting up the beast-attracting incense in front of the depression. Green smoke curled up and spread out with a fishy and sweet smell. This beast-attracting incense is not bad, right? Yun Jioga asked Zishang confidently. Zishang took a sniff and shook his head. The smell is just so-so. No way. Yunjioga also went forward to take a sniff. It smelled really good. Although it was her first time lighting it, in theory, it shouldn't be a problem to attract beasts. Chapter 329. I'm far inferior to you. When I smell your fragrance, let alone 2 miles, I'll even run 2,000 miles to come over. Zishang's eyes curved, and his smile rippled. Damn, he was comparing her to a mother beast. If I can get you to scram 2,000 miles away, I'll be even happier. Yunjioga wished he could stuff the beast-attracting incense into Zishang's nostrils. Be serious. The armored crocodiles are coming. Zishang immediately changed the topic. A shadow appeared in the distance. Many armored crocodiles were ready to seek a mate. When they were close enough, Yunjioga threw the beast-attracting incense into the small depression. Those armored crocodiles that were faster than the others rushed into the small depression without any regard for their own safety. The muddy water at the front was relatively thin, but the deeper they went, the more solid it became. Soon, the armored crocodiles could no longer swim. However, the armored crocodiles behind them continued to push forward, trampling the armored crocodiles in front of them. Seeing more and more armored crocodiles appear in the small depression, the Lu sisters, Little Fatty, and the others all became nervous. Much better. Why aren't you moving? Fatty lowered his voice and asked the Lu sisters. There were at least 80 armored crocodiles that had entered the marsh. Wait a little longer. Lu Tian'er stared at Yunjioga's back. Yunjioga waited until 100 armored crocodiles entered the small depression before giving the order to attack. The Lu sisters and Little Fatty immediately led the disciples and chanted the corpse-controlling incantation towards the small depression. Although the corpse control curse could guide the disciples' thoughts to attack the armored crocodile, whether or not it would succeed depended on the contest of consciousness. With the current cultivation of a low-level disciple, it was impossible for him to control an armored crocodile on his own. However, they were in groups of 10, and they were fighting the armored crocodiles one after another, and the results were gradually showing. After being attacked by the corpse control curse, the armored crocodiles had a splitting headache. They desperately tried to escape, but unfortunately, they were firmly trapped in the mud. Lil Bing, stop the ones behind us. Yunjioga pointed at the 40 or so armored crocodiles crawling behind them. The depression in front had already been filled up by the armored crocodiles, so the armored crocodiles that came later could directly climb over the small depression. Ice Heart Lotus controlled the frost bone spikes to seal off the path of the armored crocodiles. The other disciples also hurriedly used their Frost-Een energy palms to assist. The movement of the 40 armored crocodiles immediately slowed down. Aren't you going to try using the corpse control curse on them? Zishang asked Yunjioga. My corpse control spell doesn't work either. Even though Yunjioga had learned the spell, she had never used it on a dead body, so she was not confident. Killing the fish with brute force was more suitable for her. You're someone with a 1,000-year-old corpse. How can you not do it? Zishang placed his palm on Yunjioga's back and said, close your eyes and try it. You will discover a different world. All right. Yunjioga trusted Zishang. She closed her eyes and started chanting the corpse control incantation. Incantations came out of her mouth one after another. At first, she was a little jerky. But very quickly, a mysterious power came from Zishang's palm and entered her body. The scene before her turned white. The armored crocodiles were very conspicuous against the white background, like little black dots. The black light from the corpse control spell circled around them like big sharks looking for prey. Yunjioga subconsciously used the corpse control incantation to attack the little black dots. Pu, pu, pu. One by one, the black dots were destroyed by her. It felt like she had become a god, controlling the life and death of ants. She was even somewhat infatuated with this power. Her attacks became faster and faster. Soon, all the black dots were killed by her, but she was still not satisfied. However, Zishang had already retracted his power. Her divine sense had also returned to her body. Yunjoga slowly opened her eyes and saw the corpses of the armored crocodiles in front of her, as well as Ice Heart Lotus' shocked face. The disciples behind her were also looking at her as if she was a monster. Back at the Human Face Mountain, Yunjoga had killed the Han brothers in one move. Although it had shocked them, everyone had attributed it to her awesome bone spurs and powerful skills. But now, Yunjoga did not use any external power. She only closed her eyes and chanted the corpse control incantation a few times, and killed the 40 armored crocodiles outside the depression. This was simply a miracle. Yunjoga was also shocked by the scene she had created. Originally, she had only planned to use the bone spurs to attack and kill as many as she could. She really did not expect to cause such a scene. Do you see this? This is the true essence of the Een Corpse sex cultivation method. If you can successfully understand it, it will become your ultimate weapon in the future. Zi Shang had put in a lot of effort. He had spent a lot of effort to lure Yunjoga into the Een Corpse sect, but she resisted the cultivation method here. She only wanted to cure the poison and leave. It was such a waste. Therefore, he deliberately used this move to shock Yunjoga. He hoped that she could discover the true essence of the Een Corpse sex cultivation method and focus on learning the Een Ghost Corpse control technique. I don't know what will happen in the future. I only know that if you do this, the Een Corpse sect will definitely use me as a great weapon to get rid of. When Yunjoga thought of the bloody storm that would happen next, she really wanted to beat Zi Shang to death. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Ever since Zi Shang discovered the secret of the Human Face Mountain, he changed his plan. He did not want Yunjoga to keep a low profile anymore. He had enough of being invisible around Yunjoga. He wanted to leave the mountain and cause trouble. He wanted to announce to everyone in the Een Corpse sect that Yunjoga was his. Alright, whatever you say. Yunjoga did not care anymore. Even if the sky collapsed, Zi Shang would hold it up. Senior Yunjio, what do we do with these armored crocodiles? Ice Heart Lotus walked over carefully and looked at Yunjoga as if she was looking at a god. Just put them in a storage bag. Yunjoga pulled himself together and said. After this batch, there were still 5 more batches. Now was not the time to relax. Ice Heart Lotus led the disciples to store the 40 or so armored crocodiles. Many of the armored crocodiles in the small depression were also killed. However, there were still many left. With the Lu sisters and Little Fatty's speed, there was still time to kill. Yunjoga led Ice Heart Lotus and the other disciples to attack the armored crocodiles. Injuries would also weaken their soul power. They worked until the sky turned dark. The disciples of the second peak finally killed the armored crocodiles in the depression. They were so tired that they sat on the ground. This mental work was much harder than physical work. Furthermore, they had walked through the grasslands, swamps, and Human Face Mountain today. If they did not rest, they would not be able to continue working. Everyone, rest well tonight. We will continue working tomorrow. After Yunjoga gave the order to rest, he brought Ice Heart Lotus to deal with the armored crocodiles in the depression. Chapter 330. The good thing about the depression made by the gray stone and dried yellow grass was that it could be restored to its original state with a sprinkle of spirit powder. But for safety, Yunjoga still chanted the corpse control incantation around the depression, killing off the armored crocodiles that were not completely dead, before scooping up the corpses. After dealing with the crocodile corpses, Yunjoga had Ice Heart Lotus organize people to keep watch. The Lu sisters and Little Fatty with earth and wood spirit roots were the main force of the work, so they had to rest well. The next morning, Yunjoga led the group to set traps and kill again. They spent 3 days and finally killed more than 700 demonic beasts. Other than the armored crocodiles, there were also many high-level wolf corpses. These high-level wolf beasts were also attracted by the beast attraction incense. The moment they appeared, they killed a few disciples, scaring the disciples who were focused on chanting incantations. These high-level wolf beasts were cunning, strong spirit power, and fast. Some of the mentally weak disciples wanted to escape. The situation immediately went out of control, and even the armored crocodiles took the chance to charge. Seeing that the disciples were about to be wiped out, Yunjioge could only summon the profound Yin white bone monkey, using Yin Qi to cover the low-level disciples. Then with Zishang's help, she used the corpse control incantation to kill the escaping armored crocodiles, and finally used Ice Heart Lotus to kill the high-level wolf beasts. She single-handedly turned the tide, exposing the profound Yin white bone monkey and her true cultivation. Once they got out, they would definitely attract the attention of the Yin corpse sect elders. Yunjiu Shixiang, don't worry, we will definitely tell them about the profound Yin white bone monkey. Little Fatty quickly swore, and the other disciples also promised not to reveal her secret. Yunjioge didn't say anything, they were grateful, and of course wanted to help her keep the secret. But it was hard to say after they got out. It was very difficult to shut 700 mouths, but paper could not cover fire. The profound Yin white bone monkey would be exposed sooner or later, and she was already prepared. Let's go. Yunjioge took the spoils, and led the second peak disciples up the Human Face Mountain. When they came to the Human Face Peach Forest, they found that there was only Bailan, Su Junqing, and the third peak disciples. Their group had high cultivation, and with 2 leaders, their killing power was naturally shocking. But even so, they still lost a few experts. Seeing Yunjioge and the others arrive so quickly and with so many people, they were all very surprised. Junior brother Yunjiu, have you gathered enough monster corpses? Bailan could not help but ask. Yunjioge nodded and glanced at Yi Yunji, who was standing behind Su Junqing. Seeing that her face was still expressionless and her eyes were lifeless, as if she had not regained her consciousness, he finally felt a little relieved. How did junior brother Yunjioge do it? Bailan felt that Yunjioge was either lying or he really had a secret weapon. You still have the nerve to question someone else's unique secret technique? Aren't you a little too shameless? The Han brothers' voices suddenly rang out. The disciples under the 2 brothers did not suffer any losses. It seemed that things were going smoothly. Bailan was annoyed at the sight of the 2 brothers. She snorted coldly and did not ask any more questions. Not long after, Wolf also brought people back. Although they were exhausted, they looked satisfied. It seemed that they had gained a lot. Since everyone is here, then let's properly calculate the gains from the monster corpses. The Han brothers called out. Alright, then we'll start with you. Bailan wanted to see how much these 2 brothers had gained. Then we won't be polite. The Han brothers poured out the monster corpses from their storage bags. They had a total of 1,200 disciples on their 2 mountain peaks and they had killed 1,500 monster corpses. There were all kinds of different species. Although they were mostly low-level monster corpses, this result was still not bad. Senior sister Bai, your team is filled with elites and senior brother Su has a life-Yin corpse, he shouldn't be worse than us. The Han brothers looked at Bailan with provocative eyes. Humph. Bailan naturally would not be worse than the Han brothers. With 300 people, they had killed 500 monster corpses. Although they couldn't compare to the Han brothers, their quality was much better. Most of them were mid and high-level monster corpses. Next was Wolf Fang. They killed even more. 600 people killed 1,200. They were all blood earth dragons and their corpses were as tall as small mountains. Like this, even if junior brother Yunjiu is a bit lacking, it doesn't matter. Bailan said with a smile. It seems like everyone had a great harvest. Yunjioge opened his storage bag. It was exactly 720. Whether it was quantity or quality, Yunjioge's group was worse than the other peaks. But the second peak only had low-level disciples, so this result couldn't be any better. But although Wolf Fang and the Han brothers were surprised, they had made up their minds to be good friends with Yunjioge, so they didn't ask anything. Hurry up and ripen the human-faced peaches. Su Junqing couldn't help saying this. He couldn't wait any longer. Alright, then let's hurry up and finish this matter. The Han brothers were also in a hurry to leave this damn place. They arranged for the disciples to throw the monster corpses into the peach forest. They bumped into many human-faced peaches along the way, but they all fell to the ground and ripened after swallowing the monster corpses. The Han brothers and Bai Lan's eyes were filled with envy. They had thought that they wouldn't be able to complete the sect's mission, but they never thought that there would be this many. If they brought these human-faced peaches back, they would definitely be rewarded by the sect. Yun Jilga stood at the side, pretending to look at the peach forest, but she was actually sneaking glances at Su Junqing and Yi Yunji. She had originally planned to kill Su Junqing in the little dungeon, but Zishang had suddenly slipped away. She didn't dare to act rashly alone. Now that Zishang had finally returned, he was busy collecting the demonic beasts to ripen the human-faced peaches. Seeing that the human-faced peaches were about to ripen, it would be even more difficult to find a chance to deal with Su Junqing. Don't be anxious. Zishang saw Yun Jilga's thoughts and placed a storage bag in her hand. What is this? Yun Jilga asked curiously. A good thing that can open up the treasures. Follow me. Zishang said as he led Yun Jilga out of the peach forest. At this time, the disciples were busy throwing the monster corpses. Wolf Fang, the Han brothers, Bai Lan, and Su Junqing stared at the ripe human-faced peaches on the ground while keeping their eyes on their opponents. They were all worried that someone would snatch the peaches before them, so no one cared about Yun Jilga's whereabouts. The Lu sisters noticed that Yun Jilga had left, but they didn't say anything. Instead, they covered for her. After Zishang brought Yun Jilga out of the peach forest, they turned here and there before arriving at an empty cave. Why did you bring me here? Yun Jilga looked at Zishang warily. That beast couldn't be thinking of dual cultivating here, right? Thinking about the tree hole in the Yin Chi cemetery, it was indeed very possible. What nonsense are you thinking? Zishang stretched out his hand, wanting to touch Yun Jilga's face, but was slapped away by her. This place is not suitable for dual cultivation. You'd better give up on it. Chapter 331. Who said anything about dual cultivation? I brought you here to find treasures. Seeing Yun Jilga's face of disbelief, Zishang called out the treasure-seeking scorpion. The scorpion wiggled its fat body out of the sack on Yun Jilga's body. It asked Zishang naively, "What orders does the king have?" "Tell your master what treasures are here," Zishang said to the scorpion. "Yes." The scorpion landed on the ground and circled around the cave a few times. Finally, it said doubtfully, "How come I don't smell treasures? What else do you have to say?" Yun Jilga looked at Zishang with disdain, thinking that he had exposed his plot. "Smell again." Zishang condensed a purple light on his finger and shot out a small hole in the ground. The scorpion crawled over and immediately waved its pincers excitedly. "Treasures, it really is treasures. I was right." Zishang was very satisfied with the scorpion's performance. "Then how do we go down?" Yun Jilga's eyes lit up. It couldn't wait to find a secret passage in the cave. "Follow me." Zishang grabbed Yun Jilga's hand and stomped his foot. With a rumbling sound, a large hole appeared in the ground. Yun Jilga and Zishang fell in a straight line. The wind blew past her ears, blowing her hair into a straight line. The treasure-seeking scorpion quickly grabbed Yun Jilga's sleeve and landed safely with her. "Can you tell me in advance next time?" Yun Jilga's hair fell down, but her heart was still in her throat. "Sure." If he still remembered. "Master, treasures." The scorpion waved its pincers and excitedly ate. Yun Jilga took out the bloodthirsty bone spike and looked forward through the hazy red light. Instantly, she was shocked. This was an extremely wide cave. At this moment, there was a huge peach tree growing in the middle of the cave. The grayish-brown tree had a man's face on it. His facial features were deep and extremely handsome. His eyes were closed, and he looked exactly like the man in the human-faced mountain. What the hell is this? Yunjoga asked with wide eyes. This is the human-faced Peach King. Zishang looked at the peach tree and couldn't help but lick his lips. This was a very nutritious thing. The human-faced Peach King seemed to know that danger was approaching, and its branches couldn't help but sway a little. Peach King, but there are no peaches on his tree. Yunjoga looked carefully at the bare branches. There weren't even any leaves, let alone peaches. Very soon. Where's the storage pouch that I gave you earlier? Zishang asked. Yunjoga then passed the storage bag to Zishang. Zishang collapsed in front of the human-faced Peach King, and the stench of blood immediately assaulted his senses. Inside the storage bag were the corpses of demonic beasts. Blood Earth Dragon, Armored Crocodile, Tiger, Leopard, Bear, Lion, Monkey, there were all kinds of breeds, and they piled up to the height of a small hill. There were even more than what Wolf Fong, the Han brothers, and the others had killed. When did you get it? Yunjoga looked incredulous. She had been with Zishang the entire time just now, and she hadn't seen him make a move. After investigating, I found out that this guy is about to mature, so I went out for a stroll and helped him collect some food. As Zishang spoke, he spoke to the human-faced Peach King as if he was coaxing a child. Come, good child, eat quickly. The Peach King didn't open its mouth. It was obvious that if it ate all the food, it would become food. If you cooperate obediently, I can still spare your little life. Otherwise. Zishang turned hostile, and his tyrannical appearance was simply terrifying. The branch of the Peach King trembled, but it still didn't move. Zishang narrowed his gray eyes, and a savage purple light appeared in his eyes. His white fingers emitted a faint purple mist, which gradually turned into 5 long sharp blades. The Peach King's entire body trembled. In front of Zishang, it was as pitiful as a little lamb. Yunjoga originally didn't want to care about this matter, but he suddenly received a pitiful will from the Peach King. Please save me. Wait. Yunjoga's heart stirred, and he hurriedly pulled Zishang's hand. If you force it, it won't be sweet. If it isn't willing, why force it? If I want it to be sweet, it will be sweet. When Zishang became tyrannical, he was truly unreasonable. The face on the Peach King tree made an aggrieved expression, and a thin branch extended over, wanting to secretly pull on Yunjoga's sleeve. But before it could touch the person, Zishang stepped on it and snapped it. You dare to touch this sovereign's people? You're tired of living. Zishang found this Peach King to be more and more displeasing to the eye. Yunjoga, on the other hand, felt that this Peach King was quite intelligent, so he continued to persuade Zishang. In this day and age, fair trade is very important. If you want it to bear fruits for you to eat, then give it something in exchange. Only by negotiating properly could they achieve a win-win situation. When the Peach King heard Yunjoga's words, it raised one of its branches and nodded repeatedly. Fine, this sovereign will listen to your conditions. Zishang had been tyrannical for so many years, but this was the first time he saw a food that dared to bargain with him. He also wanted to see what benefits this damned peach had. Save me. The Peach King immediately transmitted a powerful will to Yunjoga. Yunjoga's mind buzzed, and the scene before his eyes changed. It was still a dark, wide cave, but the human-faced Peach King in front of him was a short tree. On it was the face of a young and adorable boy. It was the spiritual energy source of this small secret realm, and it had spent countless lonely years in this cave. One day, it tried to stretch out its branches and grow upwards, then spread its branches and leaves all over the barren mountain peak. The branches and leaves slowly grew, turning into a lush peach garden. The human-faced peaches there all had the faces of beautiful boys, and they looked at the strange yet beautiful world in front of them with large, confused eyes. Until one day, this small secret realm was discovered by a group of humans. They were greedy and vicious. They attacked its branches, and even wanted to find its source and take it away. In a fit of rage, it attacked them, killing many of them. Because it had used up a lot of spiritual energy, it subconsciously absorbed the corpses as nutrients. Very soon, some of the peaches fell to the ground after absorbing too much nutrients, and were taken away by the humans. From then on, a nightmare descended. Every year, thousands of humans would come to attack it. After it retaliated, it absorbed the corpses to increase its nutrients, and then the ripe peaches were taken away. Just like that, the humans used it as a flesh and blood medium, feeding it with human lives, and then taking away its fruits. Day after day, after its branches absorbed large amounts of blood chi, it also became greedy and vicious, affecting its source. It was forced to grow quickly, and the day it matured would be the day it and this small secret realm would be destroyed. It wanted to escape this tragic fate, and continue to protect this small secret realm as it grew. Yunjilga could feel the pain of the human-faced Peach King, and she couldn't help but shed tears for it. At this time, she faintly heard Zishang's call, and she slowly opened her eyes. Chapter 332. Jilga, are you alright? Zishang looked at Yunjilga nervously. Not far away, the pitiful human-faced Peach King had already had all its branches chopped off by the enraged Zishang. All that was left was a bare trunk. The handsome man's face was scrunched up, looking incomparably miserable. That despicable Peach King dared to plot against you. Just wait for me to kill him for you. Ever since Yunjilga had almost lost her life because of Si Yuyue, Zishang had become extremely sensitive to such things. He would not let go of anything that could harm Yunjilga. Don't, it's actually very pitiful. Yunjilga hurriedly pulled Zishang's hand. The pitiful Peach King was originally innocent and naive. As long as it continued to grow in this small secret realm, it would transform into a human form and obtain great abilities. Later, it was fed into a bloody peach by the Een Corpse sect. When it matured, it would become the king of slaughter and destroy the entire small secret realm. I don't care if it dies. Even if this small secret realm was destroyed, he could still bring Yunjilga away. There are so many Een Corpse sect disciples up there. If they all die and only I survive, how can I stay in the Een Corpse sect? Yunjilga knew that Zishang really wanted her to learn the Een Corpse bone-controlling technique. He would not want her to give up halfway. As expected, Zishang hesitated, then reluctantly said, "Fine, tell him that as long as he gives the Jasper Spirit Peach to me, I can help him separate the bloody evil energy." "What method do you have?" Yunjilga asked. "It won't be dangerous, right? You don't have to worry about that." This was a long story, and Zishang was too lazy to explain it. "Fine." Yunjilga gave up and turned to the human-faced Peach King. "Peach King, you heard it too. He is willing to help you separate the bloody evil energy in exchange for your peaches." Why did it sound a little strange to say such words to a handsome man's face? The human-faced Peach King twisted its brown vine and transmitted a clear consciousness. "I don't trust him, I trust you. I can't help you separate the bloody evil energy." Yunjilga knew that the human-faced Peach King wanted her to be his guarantor, but she did not want to do such a troublesome thing with no benefits. "This is for you." The human-faced Peach King's brown vine retracted back into the tree trunk and dug around. Finally, it pulled out a green crystal and handed it to Yunjilga. That crystal was only the size of a thumb. It was sparkling and translucent. Damn it, anyone who was shone upon by its light would feel comfortable. Yunjilga instinctively felt that eating this crystal would be beneficial to her, so she couldn't help but look at Zishang. "This is a wood spirit. After eating it, you'll be able to communicate with all the plants in the world." Although Zishang was not happy with the human-faced Peach King's actions of currying favor with Yunjilga, he had to admit that this wood spirit was very beneficial to Yunjilga. "I didn't do anything to deserve it." Yunjilga was in a difficult position. Zishang was the one who did all the work, so she was too embarrassed to accept it. "All that matters is that I have contributed." Zishang took the wood spirit and stuffed it into Yunjilga's mouth. Yunjoga felt the wood spirit melt in her mouth and a powerful aura filled with vitality wrapped around her body. Then, two small tender leaves that looked like bean sprouts appeared on her arm. The veins on these two leaves were clear, and they were filled with wood spirit energy. Yunjoga discovered that after these two tender leaves grew out, her lightning spirit root had gained a wood spirit root, becoming a wood lightning spirit root. The human-faced Peach King was very happy to see Yunjoga's leaves. Many brown branches grew out of the bare tree trunk and pierced through the demonic beast corpses on the ground. The mountainous demonic beast corpses disappeared rapidly. The Peach King's grayish-brown skin was also gradually dyed with a layer of blood. Its handsome and perfect face became clearer and clearer, exuding a dense demonic aura. Yunjoga thought of those savage human-faced peaches in the peach forest and immediately retreated 2 steps in alarm. It won't go berserk and kill people, right? How can it be called the Peach King if it doesn't kill people? You'd better stay away from it. Zishang shielded Yunjoga behind him. Joga, even if I go berserk, I won't hurt you. A gentle male voice rang out in Yunjoga's mind. It was the human-faced Peach King's voice. Previously, it could only communicate with Yunjoga through its consciousness. But now, it could speak directly through the wood spirit. Although Yunjoga believed that the human-faced Peach King wouldn't hurt her, her heart still trembled when she saw its terrifying appearance. There's still some time before it matures. Didn't you want to take care of Su Junqing? Let's go find him. Zishang grabbed Yunjoga's hand and brought her back to the ground in a flash. At this time, the ground was already in chaos. The sinister-looking human-faced peaches suddenly landed on the ground and devoured the demonic beast corpses. Then, they ran to attack the Yin Corpse sect disciples. Although Wolf Fang, Bai Lan, Su Junqing, the Han brothers, and the others tried their best to resist, there were still quite a few disciples who fell. On the other hand, the Lu sisters, Ice Heart Lotus, and Little Fatty had been practicing their defense all this time. They huddled together and used their frigid Yin Chi palms to help Ice Heart Lotus condense an ice wall, barely blocking the human-faced Peach's frenzied attacks. Everyone, come over here. Seeing this, Yunjoga immediately took out her 4 bone spikes. The bewildering mist bone spike spat out a cloud of black mist, but there were green lines flashing within. The human-faced peaches seemed to recognize her, and all avoided the black mist. Senior brother Yunjio is here. Everyone, come quickly. The Lu sisters called out. Ice Heart Lotus immediately led the disciples and retreated towards Yunjoga in an orderly manner. Seeing this, Bai Lan and the disciples of the 3rd peak also flocked towards Yunjoga. Yunjoga's black mist could not protect so many people. But even if he told Bai Lan, she would not listen. He had to think of a way. Wolf Fang, come over and help me erect the ice wall. Yunjoga still felt that Wolf Fang was the most pleasing to the eye, so he decided to help him. Alright. Wolf Fang immediately led the disciples to unleash a frigid Yin Chi palm, erecting a thick ice wall on Yunjoga's left. Yunjoga then pushed a bit of his black mist over, helping them erect their defenses. The Han brothers also followed suit, and led the disciples to erect an ice wall on Yunjoga's right. If Bai Lan wanted to get close to Yunjoga, she would have to get past them first. She wisely gave up on fighting for a spot, and led the disciples to erect an ice wall as well. Yunjoga treated everyone equally, and also sent some black mist over to her side. The human-faced peaches were blocked by the black mist, unable to devour the people of the Yin Corpse sect. In the end, they actually started killing each other. When all the human-faced peaches had ripened, a thick blood-red vine suddenly burst out of the ground, shooting up into the sky. The ripe human-faced peaches seemed to have heard the summons of the gods, and immediately flew towards the red vine like moths to a flame. Peaches! Su Junqing panicked. He took out his triflower bone spike and caught a few human-faced peaches. Hurry up and catch those peaches! Bai Lan shouted. Without enough human-faced peaches, the little secret realm would not be able to open. It was useless even if they managed to avoid this. Chapter 333. Go! Wolf Fang and the rest immediately withdrew their defenses and flew towards the human-faced peaches. Wolf Fang and the rest fought desperately for the human-faced peaches, stuffing them into their own storage pouches. But the human-faced peaches seemed to have gone mad. Even if they were cut into pieces, they would still charge towards the blood-red vines. As the red vines devoured the human-faced peaches, they sent out countless branches to attack the corpse sect disciples. Many of them were injured in an instant. Apart from the disciples of the second peak who were still able to defend, the others were all split up and scattered. Su Junqing also chased the human-faced peaches to a secluded corner. Yunji, protect me. After giving the order, Su Junqing grabbed the human-faced peaches with all his might and stuffed them into his storage pouch under Yi Yunji's cover. He looked like he would rather die for the peaches. Can we do it now? Yun Jioge asked Zishang from the side. Her bone spikes were already thirsty. There's no need for you to do it. Zishang shook his head. We agreed to let me take revenge personally. Yun Jioge frowned. She would not be satisfied until she killed this scum with her own hands. There's someone who hates him more than you. Zishang raised his chin, indicating for her to watch Yi Yunji. Didn't you say that she was controlled by Su Junqing and could not resist? Yun Jioge asked doubtfully. We just need to get rid of the corpse-controlling curse on her. This was a good opportunity to let Yun Jioge know how important it was to control the corpse-controlling curse. How? Yun Jioge immediately got excited. Get Yi Yunji over first. Zishang stomped his foot, and a huge crack appeared in the ground under Su Junqing's feet. Yunji, save me. Su Junqing screamed and fell down in a straight line. Yi Yunji was just about to carry out Su Junqing's order when she was grabbed by a huge purple hand made of spiritual energy. With a whoosh, she was pulled in front of Yun Jioge. Yun Jioge had already taken out a small knife and was ready. The moment she saw Yi Yunji, she cut her right arm, revealing the treasure map. Yi Yunji stopped moving, and exhaled a mouthful of cold air. Then, her eyes began to rotate violently. Yi Yunji, this is me, Yi Yu's friend. Yun Jioge waved his hand in front of her. Yi Yu, Yi Yu. Yi Yunji muttered twice, as if she had recovered some of her memories. But very quickly, her face turned ferocious, and her red lips spat out 3 fierce words. Kill, kill, kill. It's useless. Yun Jioge was a bit disappointed. Yi Yunji was still driven by her obsession. How could she take revenge? You need to remove the corpse control curse from her. Zishang placed his palm on Yun Jioge's back and said, Open your eyes and take a look. Yun Jioge forcefully closed his eyes. He waited until a stream of hot air flashed between his brows before he slowly opened his eyes. Yi Yunji had already turned gray in front of her, and a blood-red chain was very obvious on her chest. That's the corpse control curse that Su Junqing made for her. Zishang's voice rang in Yun Jioge's ears. He's only controlling her heart now, but when he advances in the future, he'll even control her heart, liver, spleen, stomach, and kidneys. She'll never be able to escape. What can I do to remove it? Yun Jioge asked. Use an even stronger corpse control curse to destroy it. Try it. Zishang's palm on Yun Jioge's back began to heat up. That was a sign that he was increasing his strength. Yun Jioge only felt a violent force spreading from the center of her eyebrows, causing her body to heat up. Her mind went blank, and her mouth involuntarily chanted the corpse control curse. At first, it was Een Corpse Sect, but as she chanted it, it changed. An extremely cryptic incantation, so distant that it seemed to have come from the primordial wilderness. When Zishang heard this incantation, he was instantly shocked and looked at Yun Jioge in disbelief. There seemed to be a flame burning between her brows, and the phoenix feather flower was as dazzling as a phoenix that had ascended to nirvana. Red patterns spread from her forehead down. The bewitching face that had been deeply poisoned slowly faded. Her face was as white as jade, like a snowy mountain that was sealed in ice. Her black eyes were emotionless, like profound iron that had been buried for thousands of years. The color of her lips was extremely light, as if she had abandoned all emotions and desires, leaving only holiness. The cryptic incantation came out of her mouth, turning into an ancient and mysterious holy light that instantly shattered the chains on Yi Yunji's chest. Zishang stared at the completely different Yunjioga. After 10,000 years, he finally saw his lover again. Zishang stretched out his trembling hands, wanting to touch Yunjioga's beautiful, holy, bewitching, and mysterious face. But before he could touch it, the red patterns retreated back into Yunjioga's forehead like a tide. In the next moment, Yunjioga opened her eyes. They were as black as ink, clear and nimble. "How is it, have you removed the corpse control curse?" Yunjioga asked impatiently. She didn't notice that she had changed into a completely different person, and almost destroyed Zishang. Zishang looked at Yunjioga, who had returned to her original appearance, and felt an indescribable sorrow and sadness in his heart, so he withdrew his hand. "What's wrong with you?" Yunjioga was confused. Zishang's eyes were so sorrowful just now, and she felt so unfamiliar. "It's nothing, her corpse control curse has been removed." "Call her again." Zishang quickly adjusted his expression, and returned to his original appearance. Yunjioga didn't suspect anything, and immediately turned to Yi Yunji and shouted, "Yi Yunji." Yi Yunji's tightly shut black eyes suddenly opened, and her pupils shone with the painful light of awakening. She recalled everything that had happened in her life, and there seemed to be thousands of words in her heart, love, hate, and hatred, but they were stuck in her chest, unable to be spoken. In the end, they only turned into extremely shrill cries. "Ah!" The shrill cries of pain pierced through the sky, as if releasing all the pain and suffering she had gone through. The blood-red vines felt the negative energy, and waved their branches even more wildly. The violent sound spread from the human face mountain to the entire small mystic realm, as if the entire world was trembling. Wolf Fang and the rest were all jolted to the ground, and could only use the bone spikes to stabilize their bodies. "Su Junqing, quickly release your corpses to collect the human-faced peaches." Bai Lan wanted to find help, but found that Su Junqing had already disappeared. At this time, Su Junqing had just fallen into the pitch-black cave, and the demonic flower bone spike was already circling around him. He cautiously climbed up from the ground, and immediately released a fireball to illuminate the surroundings. Very quickly, he discovered the human-faced Peach King in the middle of the cave. That handsome and perfect face was completely red, and there was an enchanting peach fragrance coming from its body. That was a sign that it was about to ripen. Su Junqing instantly revealed a look of wild joy. Before entering the small mystic realm, he had looked up a lot of information about the human-faced peach, so he was very clear about the appearance of the human-faced Peach King. The peach tree in front of him that looked exactly like the human face mountain was undoubtedly the human-faced Peach King. Chapter 334. The heavens really are looking after me. Su Junqing let out a proud laugh. Once he picked this human-faced Peach King, not only would he be able to evolve Yi Yunji, he could also save some for his next corpse. This was killing two birds with one stone. The human-faced Peach King could feel a disgusting fishy smell coming from the person in front of it, just like those greedy humans. It waved its red vines at Su Junqing without any hesitation. Su Junqing immediately summoned the demonic flower bone thorn. Dark green flowers flew out, one protecting his head and the other two attacking the Peach King. The demonic flower bone thorn's strongest ability was to suck blood, but the Peach King did not have a single drop of blood on it. The two dark green flowers only managed to cut off a few branches of the Peach King before they were entangled by its vines. Su Junqing immediately became nervous. His bewitching technique could only be used on humans, it had no effect on the Peach King. If the demonic flower bone thorn was entangled, he would be useless. It would be great if Yi Yunji was here. Su Junqing immediately summoned Yi Yunji. He did not even think about how Yi Yunji could come in from 100 feet underground. It was a pity that his summons was useless. Yi Yunji had already lost contact with him. Su Juanqing's expression changed. Could Yi Yunji have been killed? That was impossible. He was about to summon again when a blood-red vine flew up from the ground and bound his feet. Following that, another blood-red vine turned into a sharp sword that stabbed at his chest. With a ping sound. The remaining ink flower blocked the attack in front of him, but it was quickly tied up by the blood-colored vines and dragged away. Su Juanqing watched as the blood-red vine attacked again. He was so scared that he almost peed his pants. At this time, a slender white hand appeared in front of him. It spat out a cold yin qi that froze the blood-red vine. A long red sleeve swept in front of Su Juanqing, carrying a delicate fragrance and a faint corpse aura. Yunji. Su Juanqing hung in the air and said to Yi Yunji with wild joy, "Quickly put me down." Yi Yunji did not move, her deep eyes just looked at him. Su Juanqing hung upside down on the tree in a very sorry state. His hair was a mess and his facial features were a bit distorted. He did not look like the gentle young master from the past at all. Yi Yunji thought of how curious she was about the outside world when it was her first time leaving home. In the end, not long after he left the Yi Clan Valley, he found an extraordinarily handsome and elegant young master who had been poisoned by a snake and fainted on the side of the road. She did not hesitate to save him. After the young master woke up, he thanked her profusely and insisted that she stay in his manor for a few days. From then on, he showed great concern for her well-being, tenderness and sweetness, and used gentleness and care to weave a net that trapped her deep within. She even got married to him in the Zhuangzi. At that time, she had thought that she would be happy forever. In the end, the fire in the valley of the Yi family had woken her up from her dream and broken her heart. Her family was destroyed, her child was aborted, and her little brother was missing. She was sent to the bloodthirsty ancestor as a blood slave. Finally, he put her into the corpse refining furnace and refined her into a yin corpse. Yi Yunji recalled the past, and her whole body trembled. She looked at Su Juanqing with bitter hatred in her eyes. "Yunji, what's wrong with you?" Su Juanqing looked at Yi Yunji's frighteningly dark pupils, and his heart couldn't help but jump. He curled his fingers slightly. He missed the corpse control spell. Kacha! Yi Yunji made a move and cut off both of Su Juanqing's arms. Ah! Su Juanqing gave a pitiful cry and broke out in a cold sweat. His heart was filled with fear. Could it be that Yi Yunji was taken by another corpse control master? Su Juanqing, I never thought that you would have a day like this. Yi Yunji suddenly spat out these cold words. Su Juanqing looked at Yi Yunji with a look of disbelief. Yin corpses could not speak. Only if they evolved into a living corpse would they be able to recover the functions of a living person. Could it be that Yi Yunji had a great opportunity that allowed her to jump several levels and directly become a living corpse? Then wouldn't he be rich? Things are like this, and you're still dreaming of getting rich. Yi Yunji looked at Su Juanqing's greedy eyes. She would always be a tool in his heart. Yunji, could it be that you've recovered your memories? Su Juanqing's pupils shrank, suddenly realizing that something was wrong. The things he did to Yi Yunji in the past could be said to be worse than a beast. If she recovered her memories, how could she let him go? That's right, you can think about how to die so that you won't let me down. Yi Yunji gently stroked Su Juanqing's face, a bone-chilling cold seeped into his body. Su Juanqing couldn't help but shiver. He wanted to kneel down and beg for mercy. He wanted to weep and repent for his past mistakes. But right now he was hanging upside down in the air. If his tears flowed backwards, it would be very ugly. Moreover, it would be very difficult to move Yi Yunji. Su Juanqing's mind quickly turned, then he revealed a bitter smile and said, "Yunji, I know you hate me. I also know that my past actions are not worthy of your forgiveness, but I truly love you. I refined you into a yin corpse because I want to be with you forever, never to be separated. Yun Jioge was currently hiding with Zi Shang in the dark. Hearing Su Juanqing's confession, he was so disgusted that his body had goosebumps. He wanted to go up and give him a few slaps. Yi Yunji seemed to have heard Yun Jioge's thoughts. She reached out and slapped him 3 times. Her actions were extremely ruthless. Su Juanqing's ears instantly buzzed. He spat out a mouthful of blood and 3 teeth. His cheeks were red and swollen. Blood flowed out, making him look incomparably miserable. Yunji, if hitting me can help you vent your anger, then hit me. Su Juanqing pretended to be affectionate. His words were very tragic. Beat him to death. Yun Jioge waved his fist at the side. Yi Yunji was not polite. She punched Su Juanqing's face. Su Juanqing's face was covered in all kinds of colors. He opened his mouth and spat out several mouthfuls of blood. Tisk, beating him to death is letting him off lightly. Yun Jioge's anger was not enough to vent. Su Juanqing was such a cruel and unscrupulous man. He should be punished even more cruelly. Yunji. Su Juanqing was beaten until tears and blood flew out of his nose. He was in so much pain that he couldn't even speak. But he knew that Yi Yunji had always been soft-hearted. The more he acted pitifully, the more likely he would be to ask for her forgiveness. So he forced himself to say, I know you want to kill me. I don't blame you because I deserve it. I just want you to eat me. Don't leave even my bones behind. That way, I can be with you forever. When Yi Yunji heard Su Juanqing's words, her body trembled and she stopped. Yun Jioge was worried that Yi Yunji would really fall for it. He was anxious and angry at the side. But Zi Shang held him down and did not let him go out. You filthy thing. Just looking at you makes me feel disgusted. You want me to eat you? Yi Yunji revealed a fierce smile. Then, she reached out and grabbed the top of Su Juanqing's head. She dug out his spirit root. Chapter 335. Ah! Su Juanqing screamed. Blood flowed from his head and his body trembled in pain. This was not enough. Yi Yunji crippled Su Juanqing's dantian with a kick. Then, she stabbed her fingers into his face like knives and injected the frigid corpse poison into him. Su Juanqing felt like he had fallen into a bottomless ice cave. The pain on his face and body was enough to drive him crazy. He screamed and lost consciousness. Yi Yunji put Su Juanqing down from the vine and threw him to the side like trash. Then, she walked towards Yun Jioge. You let him go just like that? Yun Jioge glanced at Su Juanqing. He saw that he had been hit by Yi Yunji's frigid corpse poison. Not only was his spirit cultivation destroyed, his face and body were covered in tumors. He looked more disgusting than a toad. It was a horrible sight. Letting him live is the most painful thing. Someone will take care of him when we get back. Yi Yunji's expression was calm. The beating just now had vented a lot of her anger. After knowing that Su Juanqing's final outcome would be worse than death, she did not pay any attention to him. Then what do you plan to do next? Yun Jioge asked. Yi Yunji's corpse control curse had been removed. She had regained her previous consciousness. She could choose a new path to live. Although Yin Corpse sect would still try to harm her if they found out, it would not be a problem if she found a place far away from Yin Corpse sect to live in seclusion. I am already a dead person. I should go where the dead should go, Yi Yunji said calmly. You want to die? Yun Jioge did not expect Yi Yunji to choose this path. I died a long time ago. All that's left is a wisp of my soul. I won't last long. Yi Yunji was very calm about death. She had lived a failure in this life. There was nothing left for her. The only thing she was worried about was her younger brother, Yi Yu. She had committed heinous crimes, but her younger brother had never given up on saving her. Towards this younger brother of his, he really owed too much. Junior brother Yun Jioge, you are Yi Yu's friend. I want to ask a favor of you. Yi Yunji had never seen Yunjoga's real body. Naturally, she thought he was a man like the Een Corpse sect disciples. Please speak. As long as it is within my means, I will definitely not refuse, Yunjoga said solemnly. I don't have anything on me, I don't have anything to leave for my little brother. The only thing I have is this Een Corpse body, so I ask you to give my body to Yi after my consciousness disappears. From now on, she would protect her little brother by his side, forever protecting him. I can take you to find Yi, but your face. Yunjoga was in a bit of a dilemma. He was afraid that the news would be leaked and lead to the Een Corpse sect's pursuit. You don't have to worry about that. Yi Yunji smiled and touched her forehead with her finger. Her hair, eyebrows, and eyelashes all turned snow white. The dazzling red mole between her eyebrows instantly froze into an ice sculpture and fell into her palm. Her pale white skin slowly cracked, covered with countless small black cracks. She looked like a failed puppet, completely different from the beautiful Een Corpse from before. Yi Yunji reached out her cracked hand and dug out the treasure map from her right arm. Then she gave it to Yunjoga. I'll ask you one more thing. Don't tell Yi that this is my real body. Let him think that I'm already dead and that my corpse is buried in a sea of flowers. He knows that I love flowers the most. Yi Yunji revealed a grin, giving off an indescribably terrifying feeling. Alright. Yunjoga took the treasure map with a heavy heart. This ice sculpture, help me give it to a disciple from the bloodthirsty sect called Thin Monkey. Although he isn't a good person, he treats me well. Yi Yunji gave the red mole that had turned into an ice sculpture to Yunjoga. During her days in the bloodthirsty sect, because she was worried that she would be sent to the blood cave as a cauldron, she lived in fear every day and night. It was Thin Monkey who gave her a trace of warmth in her darkest time. She always remembered this kindness. In order to save you, Thin Monkey died after helping us break the sect protecting array. Yi has already taken his ashes. Yunjoga said as he took the ice sculpture. Yi Yunji was stunned. After a while, she said, then I'll put this red mole into his ashes. Alright. Yunjoga nodded and then asked, is there anything you're worried about? Something I'm worried about? Yi Yunji's eyes flashed with a trace of confusion. She had sealed her Een energy in her right arm, so as long as she didn't use it, no one would discover her special physique. Everything that needed to be said had already been said, there was nothing she couldn't let go of. If there was anything she couldn't let go of, then there was only one thing. Yi Yunji's eyes fell onto Su Junqing, who was like mud in the corner. She gave a soft sigh and said, after he's tortured, help me give him a release. Alright. Yunjoga nodded. Yi Yunji really was a loyal woman. Even if she hated Su Junqing, she would still give him a trace of pity. Such a good woman, why was her life so bitter? Thank you, you're also a good person. Yi Yunji left behind a final smile. Her black eyes gradually lost their light and she completely disappeared from this world. Yunjoga looked at Yi Yunji with a sad expression. The only thing she could do now was to send Yi Yunji back to Yi Yu's side. But she didn't know how to send such a terrifying Een Corpse to Yi Yu, she didn't know what he would think. Before Yunjoga could think of a way, she heard Zi Sheng seriously say from the side, quickly put her away, the Peach King is about to ripen. Yunjoga turned to look and found that the Peach King had already turned into a perfect human figure. A tall nose, handsome eyes, perfect facial features, and a tall and slender figure. If it was placed in the human race, it would be a rare handsome man. It was a pity that the bloody aura on its body was incomparably thick. On the peach tree branch, the left half of the peach was condensed from blood, filled with a fierce aura, while the right half was carved from jade, filled with a delicious spiritual energy. The two colors did not have a clear boundary, rather they were fighting for territory in the middle. Sometimes it was red, sometimes it was green. But in general, the green color was at a disadvantage. What do I need to do to help you? Yunjoga quickly used Su Junqing's corpse refining bag to put Yi Yunji away. Just watch from the side. Zishang said as he placed his palm on the Peach King's chest. Noodles, the bloody aura on the Peach King's body found an outlet, and it was like a river bursting its banks, surging towards Zishang. The camouflage on Zishang's body was instantly destroyed. His long silver-gray hair became the white of moonlight, and a purple horn grew out of his head. His eyes became purple with vertical pupils, and his 2 long legs turned back into the shape of a snake, coiling tightly on the ground. The stench of blood was like a raging sea crashing onto his body, forcing him to retreat little by little. The entire underground cave was shaking, and countless rocks fell from the sky, as if it would collapse at any time. Chapter 336. Yunjioge looked at Zishang nervously. She had received the consciousness of the human-faced Peach King before, so she knew that it was extremely painful when the bloodthirsty aura wreaked havoc in one's body. It could even drive one crazy. The human-faced Peach King could even distribute the pain to the branches of the peach forest. Zishang could only bear it alone, and it was even more painful. Although the human-faced Peach King and the secret realm were pitiful, Zishang was much more important to Yunjioge than them. I'm fine. Zishang could feel Yunjioge's worry, so he turned and smiled at her. A drop of blood rolled down his pure white face. His smile was even uglier than crying. Is this peach really that important? Is it more important than your life? Yunjioge looked at Zishang with heartache. His handsome and devilish face was covered in sweat. Even the scales on his tail had turned red. Strands of bloody aura emanated from his body. It was the bloodthirsty aura that was attacking crazily. No matter how strong its demonic body was, it could not endure such torture. Yet, the human-faced Peach King stood there as if nothing had happened. What are you standing there for? If you don't think of a way to help him, we're all finished. Yunjioge shouted angrily at the human-faced Peach King. After hearing Yunjioge's words, the human-faced Peach King unwillingly spread its arms, spreading the bloodthirsty aura throughout the secret realm. Zishang's burden was relieved, and he immediately absorbed the aura. Very soon, the bloodthirsty aura on the human-faced Peach King's body disappeared completely. The peach on the red branch had turned completely green, giving off a fruity fragrance. The human-faced Peach King had also turned completely human. He had a head of light green hair, a tall and slender figure, and a grass skirt wrapped around his waist. His facial features were perfect, and he had a pair of green eyes. The pupils were the shape of 2 tender leaves, very similar to the leaves growing from Yunjioge's arms. Why doesn't this peach have a human face? Yunjioge did not pay attention to how perfect the human-faced Peach King was. What she was concerned about was that the peach that Zishang wanted so desperately looked different from the human-faced peach above. Those human-faced peaches are my branches. This is the real Jasper spirit peach that was cultivated from the secret realm's Ling Qi. The human-faced Peach King reached out and plucked the Jasper spirit peach, then handed it to Yunjioge. Yunjioge did not take it. Instead, he looked at Zishang. After all, this was a treasure that he had risked his life to obtain. Store it in a jade box. Zishang gestured to Yunjioge. Yunjioge immediately took out a jade box and put away the Jasper spirit peach. The human-faced Peach King reluctantly said to Yunjioge, "This little secret realm is about to close completely. You guys should leave quickly." Just now, he had used his bloodthirsty aura to destroy all the restrictions left behind by the evil people and erase the coordinates of this mystic realm. In the future, he would completely leave the sight of the human race. Then what about you? Yunjioge was a little worried that something would happen to the human-faced Peach King. After all, it had given her a wood spirit and a peach. I can't leave my main body yet. I'll be able to leave the small mystery realm after I've completely transformed. At that time, I'll look for you and repay you for saving my life. A gentle light flashed through the human-faced Peach King's green eyes. He really liked this girl called Yunjioge in front of him. Her scent was very fragrant, and it could calm his raging heart. Unfortunately, that Yao called Zi Shang was too scary. Otherwise, he would really want Yunjioge to stay behind to accompany him. Then I wish you all the best. Yunjioge still didn't know that the human-faced Peach King had designs on her. She even politely gave her blessings. The human-faced Peach King immediately revealed a joyful expression. He nodded heavily and said, "Okay. I'll definitely look for you. It's getting late, let's go." Zi Shang grabbed Yunjioge's shoulder with a possessive look and gave the human-faced Peach King a warning look. This damned Peach dared to have designs on his wife. He would kill him sooner or later. Alright, let's go. Yunjioge didn't forget to bring the unconscious Su Junqing with her when she left. However, she wasn't willing to touch him directly, so she used a rope to tie him up and drag him to the ground. At this time, the human-faced mountain was already shaking, and the mountain rocks were collapsing. The entire small mystery realm was on the verge of destruction. The disciples of the Een Corp sect were so scared that their faces were pale. Many of them were paralyzed on the ground, waiting for death in despair. Are we going to die here? Little Fatty had a sullen expression. He still had a great life that he hadn't enjoyed yet. The Lu sisters didn't say anything. They only held each other's hands tightly. They were already very satisfied to be able to live and die together. The only pity was that they couldn't get revenge on their uncle's family. Ice Heart Lotus was still waving the frostbone spike in her hand as she fought. Wolf Fang, Bai Lan, and the Han brothers were also desperately looking for a way to leave, but they were disappointed again and again. Just as everyone was in despair, a clear voice rang out like the sound of nature, "Everyone, come quickly. There's a passage here that can leave." The people of the Een Corp sect raised their heads and saw Yunjioge standing in front of a pitch-black spatial passage, waving at them desperately. At that moment, everyone remembered her bewitching and beautiful corpse poison face. They were so shocked that they froze on the spot. "What are you all standing there for? Come quickly!" Yunjioge shouted again. Only then did everyone come to their senses. They rushed towards Yunjioge, wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. "What the hell are you squeezing? You'll only break the passage if you all rush in like a swarm of bees." One by one, the disciples of peak number 2 go in first, then peak number 1, peak number 3, peak number 4, peak number 5. If you don't have asterisk king listen to me, believe it or not, I'll destroy the passage right now. Yunjioge took out her bone spike and attacked Wolf Fang, the Han brothers, and Bai Lan. She was standing beside the passage now. A bone spike could disrupt the space and destroy the passage. Wolf Fang and the others immediately came to their senses. They restrained the disciples according to Yunjioge's instructions and lined up obediently. "Senior brother Yunjioge, aren't you leaving?" The Lu sisters asked. "You guys go first. I'll leave with senior sister Bai Lan and the others." Yunjioge's words made the unwilling Bai Lan shut up. Just like that, all the disciples of the Een Corp sect entered the spatial passage in an orderly manner under Yunjioge's organization. The small mystic realm was completely closed. At that moment, Elder White Bone and Elder Ink Flower were drinking tea in the Ink Flower Palace of the Een Corp sect. Chosun really left for a long time this time. He even missed the opening of the small mystic realm. Elder Ink Flower was already 500 years old. However, she had eaten a face-halting pill when she was young, so she still looked like a 16-year-old girl. Her skin was white and tender, her eyes were thin and long, and there was a tear mole on her left cheek. Although her looks were not peerlessly beautiful, she had a particularly seductive aura. "That's nothing. That woman, Si Yuyue, was beaten half to death in the Thunder Nation. Her demon corpse was also crippled, but he still didn't come back." Elder Whitebone was a bald man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He wore a black robe and a necklace made of a string of small skulls hung on his chest. "I heard that Chosun encountered an ancient ruin outside. He's probably busy searching for treasures." Elder Ink Flower poured a cup of spirit tea for Elder Whitebone. "I heard that too. However, As long as the curse on that guy isn't removed, he won't be able to advance no matter how many treasures he has. Elder Whitebone took a sip of the spirit tea and gave Elder Ink Flower a piece of advice. Cho-sen has always been protective of his people. Be careful that he comes back to settle the score with you. Su Junqing and Si Yuyue from the Ink Flower Peak had an unclear relationship. Now that Si Yuyue was seriously injured and unconscious, Jin Yanwei from the Cho Peak had come to ask Su Junqing about the situation several times, but was rejected by Elder Ink Flower. When he returned, he would definitely complain to Cho Sr., "We'll talk about it when the time comes." Elder Ink Flower smiled. Su Junqing was not exactly a plaything to her. If Cho-sen insisted that she hand him over, it was fine. Seeing this, Elder Whitebone did not say anything else. He picked up his teacup and took another sip of spirit tea. At that moment, a violent wave suddenly came from outside. The teacup in his hand fell to the ground and shattered into countless pieces. Chapter 337. Something happened to the little secret realm. Elder Whitebones' figure immediately disappeared from the spot. Elder Mo Hua also hurriedly followed. A violent ripple came from the entrance of the Great Barren Mountain, as if someone had forcefully torn open a crack in space. It's not time yet, why would the little secret realm open? Elder Whitebones' expression was extremely ugly. This little secret realm was extremely important to the Een Corps sect, so the nascent soul-old ancestors of the sect worked together to set up a restriction that could only be opened with their special tokens. Not good, the restriction of the little secret realm is starting to disappear, and the coordinates have also disappeared. Elder Mo Hua calculated, and his expression immediately changed. The restriction had disappeared, and the coordinates had disappeared. Even if the nascent soul-old ancestors came, they would not be able to enter the little secret realm. Elder Whitebones' heart was also burning with anxiety, but the spatial distortion was so severe that he did not dare to barge in recklessly. At this time, the crack in the secret realm became larger and larger, and following that, a red aura spewed out, and countless Een Corps sect disciples were spat out. Wolf Fang. By Lan. Elder Whitebones and Elder Mo Hua immediately saw the disciples of their respective sections. Master. Wolf Fang and Bai Lan had just landed on the ground, and were still dizzy and nauseous. What's going on? Elder Mo Hua stepped forward and sent Bai Lan flying with a slap. After landing, Bai Lan knelt down reflexively, and said hurriedly, "Master, please don't be angry. This disciple also does not know what is going on." Elder Whitebones was much more lenient towards his own disciples. He first checked Wolf Fang's situation, and seeing that he was not injured, he asked, "Where are the human-faced peaches? How many did you guys pick?" Since they could not find the little secret realm, they should at least get their hands on the human-faced peaches first. "Master, those human-faced peaches were all swallowed by a blood-red vine, and we only managed to pick a few with great difficulty." Wolf Fang took out his storage bag, and found that the human-faced peaches he had placed inside had disappeared without a trace, leaving only a handful of red powder. The Han brothers and the rest also hurriedly checked their own storage bags, and found that the same thing was happening. Elder Whitebones frowned as he looked at the red powder, and sent out a wave of divine sense to scan it. Elder Mo Hua also followed immediately. The divine sense of 2 Golden Core ancestors was not something that ordinary disciples could withstand. Many low-level disciples fainted due to the splitting headache, and the rest were covered in cold sweat with painful expressions on their faces. Yun Jilga lowered her head and mingled with the crowd. With Zi Shang by her side, the pressure of a Golden Core ancestor was really nothing. "Bai Lan, tell me clearly. What exactly is going on?" Elder Mo Hua's eyes swept across the area, and when he realized that there was no scent of the peaches, a furious expression appeared on his face. "Master, after we entered the small mysterious realm, we found that the situation inside was very different from the information given by the sect. The demonic beasts became very ferocious and killed more than half of the disciples. Bai Lan quickly recounted everything that had happened, especially emphasizing that in order to complete the sect's mission, they had gone through all sorts of hardships to hunt demonic beasts, and even managed to ripen twice as many human-faced peaches as before. But in the end, they had all been swallowed up by a blood-colored vine. It's the human-faced peach king, a weak voice rang out. Elder Mo Hua could tell that it was Su Juanqing's voice and threw out a light lock to pull him out. But before he could reach her, he was once again flung out viciously. Su Juanqing landed on the ground with a thud. His body, which was already in intense pain, felt like it was falling apart. He struggled to get up from the ground, wanting to tell Elder Mo Hua about his encounter with the human-faced Peach King, as well as his experience of being betrayed by that bitch Yi Yunji. But when he raised his head, he saw a look of extreme disgust in Elder Mo Hua's eyes, as if she was looking at trash. Junior brother Su, how did you become like this? Bai Lan also couldn't help but take a few steps back. The people around Su Juanqing all retreated as if they were afraid of being infected by the plague. What happened to me? Su Juanqing still didn't understand what had happened. Although Yi Yunji had destroyed his spirit root and cultivation, he believed that as long as Elder Mo Hua was willing to help him, it would not be difficult to transplant a new spirit root. See for yourself. Bai Lan shot out a crystalline image out of goodwill and landed in front of Su Juanqing. Su Juanqing raised his head and saw that the crystalline image reflected a strange face covered in yellow-green pustules, which oozed with a foul stench. He looked down in disbelief and found that his hands and body were also covered in the same pustules. Impossible, this isn't me, this definitely isn't me. Su Juanqing desperately shook his head, wanting to get away from the image, but he tripped over a rock and fell to the ground. The nearby disciples immediately scattered, each one of them revealing a disgusted expression. The Lu sisters even said in a small voice, "So disgusting." That's right, I want to vomit when I see it. Su Juanqing was about to go crazy. He had always been confident in his looks and body. He had indeed used his good looks to obtain many benefits from women. Now that he had become like this, he definitely couldn't accept it. Master, save me. Su Juanqing fearfully reached out his hand towards Elder Mo Hua for help. Where's your life source in corpse? Elder Mo Hua glanced over and found that Su Juanqing's corpse refining bag and storage bag had disappeared. She betrayed me. Su Juanqing thought about how his current misery was caused by Yi Yunji, his eyes immediately filled with a bone-deep hatred. She's being controlled by someone. Elder Mo Hua was doubtful. The strongest people that entered the small secret realm were at the Foundation Establishment realm. It was impossible for them to steal the corpses of cultivators of the same level. No, she's become a living corpse. Su Juanqing shook his head. Living corpse? Elder Mo Hua was shocked. Tell me in detail. Elder Whitebone's eyes flashed with an indescribable glow. A spirit Dao body that had become a living corpse, that was the most powerful corpse. This kind of treasure, even if they had to fall out with Mo Hua, they had to take it back. Su Juanqing didn't even have time to speak before Elder Mo Hua's eyes flashed with a fierce glow and he reached out his hand. An ink-black chi condensed into a large hand that covered Su Juanqing's head, instantly piercing through his entire body. Su Juanqing's eyes were filled with blood, his eyeballs popped out, the veins on his face and neck popped out, those pustules popped out. Yunjioga's heart was shocked. At first he thought that Elder Mo Hua wanted to save Su Juanqing, but after seeing the situation clearly, he knew that Elder Mo Hua had actually used the soul-searching technique on Su Juanqing. This soul-searching technique was a kind of tyrannical evil cultivation technique. It was specially used to gather information. It said that people who were hit by this cultivation technique would feel like their brain was being repeatedly stirred by a knife. Not only was it very painful, they would also become a cripple after using it. Elder Mo Hua was truly ruthless, making a move without saying a word. Yunjioga finally understood what Yi Yunji meant when she said someone would take care of Su Juanqing. Being tortured by the soul-searching technique, it was definitely 1,000 times more painful than being beaten to death. Chapter 338. Elder White Bones waited for Mo Hua to finish searching before asking, "How is it?" "See for yourself." Elder Mo Hua withdrew her hand gloomily. She had already found out the whole story from Su Juanqing's soul. Although the human-faced Peach King and Yi Yunji were both good things, it was too painful for them to be left in the small secret realm. Such a painful thing naturally had to be shared with others. Elder White Bones also used the soul-searching technique on Su Juanqing. When he saw the human-faced Peach King and Yi Yunji, he couldn't help but reveal an expression of wild joy. But when he saw the small secret realm collapse, he instantly fell from the clouds. He was so angry that he wanted to smash Su Juanqing's soul with one palm. Keep his soul. When the sect leader and Chosun asked, let them search it themselves. This time, the small secret realm was sealed, and the Yin Corp sect suffered heavy losses. The sect leader would definitely ask. She and White Bones were responsible for this matter and couldn't escape responsibility. Rather than wasting time explaining, it was better to let them search his soul themselves. Elder Mo Hua took out a soul-collecting bottle and kept Su Juanqing's soul in it. His body was burnt to ashes by a fire. Su Juanqing really can't live this time. Zi Shang sometimes admired the creativity of the human race. When it came to torturing people, they were indeed skilled. Yun Jioge was deeply convinced. Although Yi Yunji begged her to free Su Juanqing after he was tortured, this was just the beginning. They would talk about it after he was tortured for a while. But after Elder Chosun and the sect leader tormented him a few times, Su Juanqing's soul probably wouldn't be left. All of you, open your storage bags. Elder Mo Hua was still unwilling to give up. Although the human-faced Peach King was left in the secret realm, someone might pick up the corpse refining bag and bring Yi Yunji out. After Wolf Fang, Bai Lan, and the rest saw Su Juanqing's miserable state, not many dared to resist. All of them obediently opened their own storage pouches and held them in their hands. Yun Jioge was the same. Anyway, the corpse refining bag and Su Juanqing's storage bag, as well as her valuable possessions and pets were all with Zi Shang. At this moment, her storage bag only had some pills, a few bone spikes, a corpse-controlling bell, and a few thousand spirit jades from selling the beast-attracting incense. The people present were all Qi condensation disciples, and none of them were good people. Only Wolf Fang and Bai Lan's storage bags were worth looking at. In particular, the set of evil weapons in Wolf Fang's hands was not bad. However, Elder White Bones would not go to the extent of laying his hands on his disciple for such a small thing. Elder White Bones and Elder Mo Hua scanned the area with their divine senses and had to admit that the corpse refinement bags were not in the hands of these disciples. Mo Hua Chang's heart ached at the thought that his famous magic weapon, the demonic flower bone spike, was missing. Fortunately, it wasn't like he didn't gain anything. At least she found a talent in Su Juanqing's place and could recruit him into her ink flower palace. Yun Jioge could clearly feel Elder Mo Hua's gaze landing on her. Yun Jiu, right? Elder Mo Hua walked in front of her and asked. Raise your head. Yun Jioge had no choice but to raise her head. However, she still looked down. She was worried that Elder Mo Hua would see through her disguise. Young lad, you're not bad. Come back to the ink flower peak with me later. The ink flower elder did not see through Yun Jioge's true body and was very satisfied with her bewitching appearance. Junior brother Yun Jiu will be on the same peak in the future, Bai Lan immediately said with a smile. The other disciples all had complicated expressions. Some were envious, but most were sympathetic. Usually, inner sect disciples only accepted foundation establishment cultivators. No matter how strong one's connections were in the sect, one had to start as an outer sect disciple. The ink flower peak was naturally no exception. Elder Mo Hua had taken Yun Jioge in as a boy toy in the beginning. When his cultivation level increased, he would then become a disciple. However, Elder Mo Hua had always been very good to her children. Just look at Su Junqing. Therefore, people who wanted to reach the heavens in one step would be envious of her. Yun Jiu appreciates elders' kindness. However, my cultivation level is still low. I want to stay in the outer sect to continue cultivating. Yun Jioga rejected Elder Mo Hua's invitation without hesitation. Even a real man would not want to be the boy toy of an old witch, much less a fake man. Have you thought it through? Elder Mo Hua's deep voice was filled with pressure. Although she did not completely release the aura of a gold core ancestor, it was enough to make the Chi training stage disciples tremble. The Lu sisters and Ice Heart Lotus were worried for Yun Jioga. They were afraid that Elder Mo Hua would kill her in a fit of anger. Although Yin Corp sect forbade internal strife, that was only for normal disciples. To a gold core ancestor, killing a few outer sect disciples was as easy as killing a few chickens. Not only would the sect not pursue the responsibility of the gold core ancestor, it would also blame the outer sect disciples for being blind and offending the gold core ancestor. I have already thought it through. Yun Jioga was neither servile nor overbearing. He did not care about Elder Mo Hua's anger at all. Good, very good. Elder Mo Hua laughed. She had been in Yin Corp sect for so many years. This was the first time she had seen such a courageous youth. It was really interesting. She decided to play with this youth and teach him how to survive in the Yin Corp sect. Bai Lan looked at Yun Jioga sympathetically. She somewhat admired her courage but also sneered at her ignorance. Offending a gold core ancestor was definitely fatal. If she obediently gave in now, she could still get more benefits. If she came back to beg after being tortured to the point of death, her value would drop greatly. Sigh, she was still too inexperienced. Alright, everyone has worked hard in the small mystic realm. Go back and rest. Elder White Bones said in a good mood. Every year, the disciples who came out of the small mystic realm alive would become the pillars of the sect. This time, it was a good thing that so many people came out alive. The sect had gained a lot of manpower. Thank you, Elder. After Wolf Fong and the Han brothers thanked Elder White Bones and Elder Black Flower in unison, they walked towards their respective outer sect peaks. The originally popular Yun Jioga was now completely empty. No one dared to approach her. Ice Heart Lotus wanted to go over, but she was held back by Little Fatty. The Lu sisters acted as if they didn't know Yun Jioga at all and hurriedly went back. If it was someone else being isolated like this, they would probably feel lonely, fearful, and angry. However, Yun Jioga did not feel anything with Zi Shang by her side. She could understand why the Lu sisters and Little Fatty were like this. After all, Elder Mo Hua was powerful. It was easy for him to take care of them. Avoiding her was the wisest move. At this moment, Zi Shang suddenly whispered in Yun Jioga's ear, "When we go back, this sovereign will give you a peach. You're willing to share it with me?" Yun Jioga was slightly surprised. Although Zi Shang would always think of her when there were benefits, this Jasper Spirit Peach was something that he had risked his life to obtain, so she felt ashamed to accept it. Chapter 339. If it was someone else, I would definitely not give it to them. However, for you, let alone a Jasper Spiritual Peach, even if you want to eat my heart, liver, and lungs, I would be willing, Zi Shang said with a grin. Yun Jioga couldn't help but roll her eyes. Zi Shang was always like this. You could never guess whether he was telling the truth or lying. Sometimes, she could feel that Zi Shang liked her, but sometimes, she felt that Zi Shang was only with her for the sake of sex. So, she had very complicated feelings towards Zi Shang. Sometimes, she really didn't want to talk to him. The two of them quickly returned to their cottage. After Zi Shang quickly set up a formation, he took out the Jasper Spirit Peach and let Yun Jioga eat it. Are you giving it all to me? Yun Jioga asked hesitantly. Of course. Zi Shang risked his life to get this peach for her. This is too expensive. Yun Jioga was a little hesitant. It's okay. After you eat it, let's do dual cultivation immediately. It'll be good for me too. Zi Shang said. Yun Jioga was a little embarrassed at first, but after hearing Zi Shang's words, she immediately disappeared. In the end, he just wanted her to pay with her body. It'll be a waste not to eat it. Yun Jioga picked up the Jasper Spirit Peach and ate it in big mouthfuls. To be honest, the taste of this Jasper Spirit Peach was too delicious. As soon as it entered her mouth, it turned into a stream of extremely pure spiritual energy that gently washed over her body. She felt as if she was soaking in warm spring water on a cold day. Her whole body felt comfortable. Zi Shang looked at Yun Jioga gently with a faint smile on his lips. It seemed that just watching Yun Jioga eat was enough for him. After eating, let's do dual cultivation. Although Yun Jioga was grateful to Zi Shang, she wasn't used to saying sweet words. After putting away the rest of the peach, she put on a businesslike expression and prepared to start cultivating with Zi Shang. There's no rush. You've just eaten, take a rest first. Zi Shang, who was usually more anxious than anyone else, pulled Yun Jioga's hand and lay down on the bed. Yun Jioga also felt that it wasn't good to exercise immediately after eating, so she lay down with him and accidentally fell asleep. Zi Shang propped up his head with his elbow and carefully looked at Yun Jioga. The demonic face that had been poisoned by the corpse poison was completely different from the pure and holy witch in his memory, but the smell on her body was so familiar. He planted a gentle kiss on Yun Jioga's forehead and then slowly moved down, like a feather lightly brushing past. It was a grateful, intimate, and reassuring kiss. Yun Jioga was in a daze, but he still responded to Zi Shang's kiss subconsciously. The two of them hugged and kissed intimately, and naturally, they had intercourse. After Yun Jioga woke up, he felt very comfortable. The dual cultivation this time was especially gentle and harmonious, making her feel a sense of security. She did not know whether Zi Shang loved her or not, but it was true that he treated her well. Moreover, Zi Shang's attitude towards her had changed a little. He was a little more gentle and considerate towards her. Although Yun Jioga didn't know what was going on, he was very satisfied. More importantly, the 9-layer bone shatterer poison in her dantian was finally removed by 1 layer, leaving only 5 layers. Zi Shang looked at Yun Jioga with a gentle smile on his face. At this time, the defensive array formation set up in the house rippled. Zi Shang glanced outside and said, "That little fatty Jean Lin is looking for you," and he brought someone with him. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a knock on the door. Yun Jioga got up and opened the door. She saw little fatty and a middle-aged man with mid-stage foundation establishment cultivation standing outside. The middle-aged man had a long and thin face. Although he looked handsome, there were faint wrinkles between his brows. He looked like a serious person. "Uncle, this is senior brother Yun Jio. Thanks to him, I was able to come out of the small mystic realm alive." Little fatty introduced them. "Senior brother Yun Jio, this is my uncle, Jin Chuan." Disciple greets senior Jin Chuan. Yun Jioga cupped his hands and bowed. Let's talk inside." Jin Chuan walked towards Yun Jioga's house. He was obviously a powerful person. "Sorry, my uncle is a little impatient." Little fatty smiled at Yun Jioga sheepishly. "It's fine." No matter how unhappy Yun Jioga was, she wouldn't give little fatty a hard time. Little fatty saw that she looked calm and didn't seem to have a grudge. Then, he mustered up his courage and said, "Senior brother Yun Jio, don't blame me and the Lu sisters for ignoring you just now. We really didn't dare to offend Elder Mo Hua. It's human nature to protect oneself." "I understand that." Yun Jioga nodded. Little fatty and the Lu sisters had low cultivation levels. They couldn't even be crushed by a finger of Elder Mo Hua. It was ridiculous to expect them to stand up for him. When Jin Chuan heard Yun Jioga's words, he frowned and said, "I think you're a reasonable person. Why would you reject Elder Mo Hua?" "Senior Jin Chuan, are you here to persuade Elder Mo Hua? He didn't look like a pimp. Just now, Elder Mo Hua gave an order to the mission hall. He forbade the mission hall from giving you any missions. He also forbade the outer sect disciples from forming a team with you. Jin Chuan repeated Elder Mo Hua's order with a straight face. Senior brother Yunjiu, if you can't accept missions, you can't enter the Yin Qi cemetery to collect Yin Qi. If you can't collect Yin Qi, you can't refine pills and cultivate. How are you going to survive in the Yin Corpse sect? Little Fatty's face was full of worry. It was as if he was the one being forced. I have my ways. You don't have to worry about that. Yunjioga's plan was to leave the Yin Corpse sect to lie low. She would first send Yi Yunji's body to Yi Yu. Then, she would return to Thunder Country to visit Mother Qing and the others. She had been away for half a year. She didn't know what was going on in Thunder Country. If she had the chance, she wanted to go to the 100,000 Mountains to find Luo Tian and Juni Chen. You want to leave the Yin Corpse sect to cultivate outside? Jin Chuan saw through Yunjioga's thoughts. Yes. Didn't they say that disciples in the 5th stage of weapon refining stage can go out to cultivate? This was a rule set by the sect leader. Even if Elder Mo Hua wanted to go against her, he couldn't openly oppose it. Otherwise, he would be embarrassing the sect leader. The sect leader personally gave the order. He said that all disciples participating in the small mystery realm must be investigated in the sect. They are not allowed to go out. You can't go against the sect leader. Take care of yourself. Jin Chuan stood up and left. The fact that he had personally come to talk to Yunjioga about this was already because of little Fatty. Senior brother Yunjio, think about it. Anyway, I won't dare to come here openly in the future. If there is any news, I will think of a way to inform you. Little Fatty lowered his voice and said. Thanks. Yunjioga patted little Fatty's shoulder. It was rare for him to be so considerate. That's right. Ice Heart Lotus originally wanted to come find you. However, he was locked up by his sister-in-law to cultivate. He told me to tell you not to be angry at him. Little Fatty thought of something else. Tell him to cultivate in peace. Otherwise, he will also be captured and sent to Ink Flower Mountain. Yunjioga joked. Although Ice Heart Lotus was a little feminine, he was really beautiful. Maybe one day, Elder Mo Hua would like him if he wanted to change his appetite. Chapter 340. Hee, I'll definitely help you pass on this message to him. Little Fatty saw that Yunjioga wasn't angry at the Ice Heart Lotus, so he happily left. Yunjioga sent Fatty off and had just returned to the house when someone knocked on the door again. She opened the door and saw Wolf Fong, dressed in black, standing at the door. I have something to talk to you about. Let's talk inside. Wolf frowned. It was obvious that the matter was very urgent. Come in. Yunjioga brought Wolf Fong into the house and was about to pour him some hot tea. No need. After Wolf waved his hand to reject, he went straight to the point and said, I heard that you have a mysterious white bone monkey. The news travels fast. Yunjioga smiled as he poured himself a cup of tea and drank it. She knew that it was impossible for the disciples of Peak No. 2 to help her hide this matter, but she did not expect that they would betray her so quickly. Paper can't wrap fire. As the No. 1 outer sect disciple, Wolf Fong was not only famous in Peak 1, he also had some eyes on Peak 2. But this time, the informant told him about this matter because he wanted to beg him to save Yunjioga. The informant felt that Elder White Bones was better than Elder Black Flower. At the very least, he would not let Yunjioga sleep with him. If it fell into Elder Mo Hua's hands, Yunjioga would lose both his life and his wealth. We'll see if we can't, Yunjioga said indifferently. You won't be able to keep the mysterious white bone. Why don't you offer it to my master and become his disciple? With me looking after the White Bone Peak, your days won't be too difficult. Wolf Fong was truly concerned for Yunjioga. His master's nickname was White Bone because he was especially knowledgeable about spirit bones. If he knew of the existence of the mystic White Bone Monkey, he would definitely snatch it back. I appreciate Senior Brother Wolf Fang's good intentions, but the profound White Bone Monkey is very important to me. I don't want to give it away. Yun Jioga had raised the profound White Bone Monkey for so long and he had feelings for it. How could he bear to give it away? Wolf looked at Yun Jioga with disapproval. Seeing her determined expression, he hesitated for a moment before lowering his voice and saying, "If you don't want to go to White Bone Peak, why don't you try other places?" "Where?" Yun Jioga raised his eyebrows and asked. Wolf dipped his finger in the tea and wrote the words, "Enemy Peak," on the table. He had no choice. His master was determined to obtain the mystic White Bone Monkey. If he were to find out that he was actually encouraging Yun Jioga to go somewhere else, he would definitely be beaten to death. It was only because Yun Jioga had saved him several times that he took such a risk to persuade her. Elder Chosen also wants the mystic White Bone Monkey. Yun Jioga had never heard of Elder Chosen's research on spirit bones. No, isn't his disciple, Si Yue, seriously injured and unconscious? If you can help him wake her up, he should protect you. Wolf Fang was just giving Yun Jioga a suggestion. Elder Chosen's background was also very complicated. It was said that he was originally at the late Golden Core stage, but when he was trying to break through to the nascent soul stage, he was plotted against. His body shrunk to the size of a child, and his cultivation regressed to the middle Golden Core stage. But even so, he was still one of the most powerful elders in the Corpse sect, and even the sect master was very afraid of him. His bloodthirsty bat bone spikes were extremely powerful. The most terrifying thing was that although he had many corpses, no one had ever seen his life source corpse. It could be imagined just how terrifying his strength was. Many thanks, Senior Brother, I will consider this. Yun Jioga seriously nodded. Now that she had offended Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bone, she had to think of a way to survive in the Corpse sect. Although Si Yue had harmed her before, if she could use Si Yue to stir up this mess, then she could postpone her revenge. I heard that Elder Chosen will be back in 7 days, you should prepare early. I'm afraid that the matter of the mystic White Bone Monkey can't be hidden for a few days. Wolf Fang said in a serious tone. The disciples of the second peak were all shocked and afraid, so no one thought of betraying Yun Jioga for benefits. But it was hard to say when they calmed down. Many thanks for Senior Brother Wolf Fang's advice, I know what to do. Yun Jioga thanked him again and again before sending Wolf Fang away. His method is indeed feasible. Zi Shang suddenly said. What method? Yun Jioga didn't come back to her senses. Save Si Yue. Only by making things more chaotic and involving more people would Yun Jioga have a chance of staying in the Corpse sect. I think so too. Yun Jioga nodded. If she had only offended Elder Mo Hua, she could still delay for a while. But with Elder White Bone, it would be troublesome. If she couldn't deal with them, she could only run. Pack your things first, I will go out and take a look. After Zishang finished speaking, he turned invisible. Yun Jioga began to pack the things in the house. After half an hour, Zishang appeared in front of Yun Jioga and said, Elder White Bone and Old Witch Mo Hua are busy dealing with the small mystic realm and haven't received any news about the mystic White Bone Monkey. You can still make it if you go to Enemy Peak now. Oh right, what's wrong with Si Yue? Yun Jioga had never asked about this. I only use my demon power to seal her consciousness. You will naturally be able to undo it when you go. However, he had already heavily injured Si Yue's consciousness. Even if he could save her, he would be an idiot. Then let's go now. Yun Jioga left the house and walked towards Enemy Peak. Enemy Peak was located in the north of the Corpse sect. The entire mountain was hundreds of meters tall. The mountain was lush with spirit trees and murmuring water. One could even see long-eared rabbits, petal deer, and other spirit beasts. Not only did it not look like an evil mountain, it looked more like an immortal's residence. Elder Cho-sun had not returned with his 2 disciples. The one in charge now was his other personal disciple, Jin Yanwei. Hearing that Yunjioga had come, he was a little curious and asked his disciple to bring her in. Yunjio greets senior brother Jin. Yunjioga cupped her fists and bowed to Jin Yanwei. Junior brother Yunjio, you don't have to be so polite. Sit. Jin Yanwei invited Yunjioga to sit and sized her up secretly. He saw that the youth in front of him was not tall, but his figure was very straight. Although his facial features were very delicate and slightly feminine, because of the corpse poison, his demonic red eyes and purple lips diluted the femininity, making him look very evil. One look and it was obvious that he was an evil disciple. Yunjioga was also secretly sizing up Jin Yanwei. This personal disciple of Elder Cho-sun was already at the late stage of foundation establishment at such a young age. It was said that he was the most outstanding genius of the Een Corp sect in the past 100 years. Like Elder Cho-sun, he was born with Een spirit roots. Although this identity sounded awesome, because Jin Yanwei had a cute baby face and eyes that were clean and clear, it was obvious that he was well protected. Therefore, it was greatly discounted. However, it was also very possible that Jin Yanwei was pretending to be naive. After all, evil disciples were the best at this. Chapter 341. Junior Yunjio, why have you come to our enemy peak? Jin Yanwei asked politely. He was now in charge of enemy peak, so he was well informed. He naturally knew that Elder Mo Hua had taken a fancy to this young man. I heard that senior sister Yuyue was poisoned and unconscious, so I wanted to recommend myself. Yunjioga went straight to the point. You know how to cure poisons? Jin Yanwei raised his eyebrows in surprise. I know a thing or two. If you trust me, why don't you let me try? Yunjioga said calmly. Alright, I'll let you try. Jin Yanwei was straightforward. He had invited many spirit doctors and alchemists to check on Si Yuyue, but all of them said that the poison was very strange, and none of them could cure it. Seeing that his master was about to return, he was worried. Since someone voluntarily came to help, then let's give it a try. Anyway, it's like trying everything in a desperate situation. After Si Yuyue was sent back, she was placed in a remote courtyard at the back of enemy peak. Only 2 maids were assigned to take care of her. The 2 maids were in their late 20s, and looked thin and weak. When they saw Jin Yanwei, they silently knelt in the corner. Junior Yunjio, see for yourself. Jin Yanwei waved at the 2 maids, then sat down on a chair. Si Yuyue wore a brand new green dress, her hands crossed over her abdomen. Her expression was serene, and her skin was rosy and glowing. She was even more beautiful than before. Yunjioga reached out to take her pulse, and suddenly felt that something was wrong. Si Yuyue had been unconscious for so long, and her dantian should be very empty. How could it be so full? This was clearly a symptom that would only appear after she had fused with her body. What kind of beast was it, to not even let go of an unconscious woman? How was this different from a female corpse? Could it be Jin Yanwei's doing? Junior Yunjio, do you see anything? Jin Yanwei noticed that Yunjioga was looking at him strangely, and could not help but ask. Oh, I'm just amazed that senior brother Jin has taken good care of her. Senior sister Yuyue is still so energetic after being unconscious for so long. Yunjioga probed, wanting to see Jin Yanwei's expression. Junior Yunjio, you flatter me. Do you have a way to cure her poison? Jin Yanwei's expression did not change. He was in charge of enemy peak and was so busy every day that he did not even have the time to arrange for someone to be the leader of a small mystical realm. How could he have the time to care about Si Yuyue? In any case, as long as he could keep her alive and wait for his master to return, it would be fine. He really didn't care whether she was alright or not. The poison in senior sister Yoyue's body is more complicated. It can't be removed in a short period of time. I'll perform acupuncture on her later to see how the situation goes, Yun Jilga said readily. Alright, then I'll arrange a house for you here. You can stay and take care of her. Jin Yanwei was also straightforward. Thank you, senior brother Jin. Yun Jilga had not expected Jin Yanwei to be so easy to talk to. Don't worry, stay here. If you have any requests, let the two maids tell me. I still have things to do, so I'll take my leave. Jin Yanwei gave Yun Jilga a few words, then turned and left. He did not even look at Si Yue. Take care, senior brother. Yun Jilga closed the door after sending Jin Yanwei off. In the blink of an eye, only she and Zishang were left in the room. Yun Jilga turned to ask Zishang, do you think this is Jin Yanwei's doing? Zishang was standing next to Si Yue's bed. His coquettish face had a hint of displeasure, as if he wanted to kill Si Yue with a finger. Hearing Yun Jilga's words, Zishang did not turn his head and said, it's not him, he's still a virgin. Pfft. Yun Jilga almost choked. Virgin boys in evil sect were probably as rare as virgins in brothels, let alone someone of Jin Yanwei's status. To be able to manage enemy peak after Elder Cho Sun left, it meant that he was deeply trusted by Elder Cho's senator. It was very easy for him to use his power to get some benefits. Yun Jilga did not expect him to still be a virgin. Could it be that his cultivation method was special? What's there to be surprised about? This is Een Corp's sect, not Joyous Union sect. Your lackeys are still virgins. Zishang rolled his eyes at Yun Jilga, then continued to stare at Si Yue. Which of my lackeys are still virgins? Yun Jilga moved to Zishang's side and asked in a gossipy manner. What do you think? Zishang narrowed his eyes at Yun Jilga, a dangerous expression flashed across his face. Yun Jilga did not notice the danger and guessed with interest, Ice Heart Lotus must be it, Little Fatty might be it, but Wolf Fang doesn't look like it. Zishang did not speak and just looked at Yun Jilga. This damned girl was so concerned about Een Corp's sect's virgins. Could it be that she wanted to personally pluck them? Yun Jilga guessed halfway and finally realized that Zishang's expression was not right. She immediately changed the topic, aren't we talking about Si Yue? If it's not Jin Yanwei, who do you think it is? Although Si Yue had harmed her and she hated Si Yue, as a woman, seeing Si Yue unconscious and being fucked by a man made her feel disgusted and uncomfortable. I don't know, but this man is not just sleeping with her, he is saving her. Zishang said gloomily. Previously, he used his demonic power to seal Si Yue's divine sense. As long as there was no one to remove it, he would continue to devour her divine sense and turn her into an idiot. But now, the demonic power he sealed Si Yue was actually loosening. At this rate, Si Yue would wake up sooner or later. Then let's just wake her up. Otherwise, if the credit was stolen by someone else, how could she use enemy peak? No rush, I want to see who is so daring to ruin my plans, Zishang said with narrowed eyes. Okay. Yun Jilga expressed her agreement, but she purely wanted to know which man was so deeply in love with Si Yue that he was willing to sacrifice himself to save her. Enemy Peaks Hall. When Elder Cho Sen's disciple, Manager Chen, found out that Jin Yanwei was going to take Yun Jilga in, he asked worriedly, will you offend Elder Mo Hua by taking Yun Jilga in? TSK, is our enemy peak afraid of that old witch? What's more, junior brother Yun Jio came to us voluntarily. We are all from the same sect, so what's wrong with me taking him in? Jin Yanwei wasn't just doing it because Elder Mo Hua was protecting Su Junqing and making him lose face. Ever since he heard that the small mystic realm had mysteriously disappeared, he felt that this matter was not normal. Unfortunately, as a substitute disciple, he didn't care about Elder White Bones and Elder Mo Hua, so he wasn't willing to divulge a lot of information. He wanted to leave Yun Jio in enemy peak and wait for his master to return so that he could get some information from him. Alright, then I will send more people to set up defenses. Manager Chen didn't say anything else. Now that Jin Yanwei was the substitute peak master, as a manager, all he had to do was properly assist him. Chapter 342. After Manager Chen left, Jin Yanwei was still worried, so he took out the communication talisman his master had left him and explained the matter. His master quickly replied, telling him to keep Yunjiu at all costs. When Jin Yanwei saw that even his master supported him, he was even more at ease. He immediately went out to personally take charge of the defense. Elder Mo Hua had always been domineering. It was not impossible for him to come to enemy peak to snatch her away. He had to be prepared. Enemy peak was on full alert. Yunjioga was not idle either. She was busy examining Cuyue. Originally, she had only planned on undoing Zishang's demonic power seal, but she had not expected to find another problem. Did you cause this injury? Yunjioga suddenly found a bruise in Cuyue's memory center. This kind of injury often came with memory loss. What injury? Zishang went over to take a look and said, "This is an old injury from over 10 years ago. It has nothing to do with this sovereign." Over 10 years ago? Yunjioga had heard little Fatty say that Cuyue had joined the Yin Corps sect 12 years ago. Had she lost her memory then? Why do you care so much? Just wake her up. In his opinion, he should have turned Cuyue into an idiot with a finger. She is an important tool for us now. What's the use of turning into an idiot? Yunjioga was very open-minded. Since he had already saved her, he naturally had to be a good person to the end. As for the grudges at Blood Cloud Peak, he would settle them in the future. Up to you. Zishang was not too concerned about this. He was more concerned about the flower thief who had ruined his plans. Yunjioga did not say anything more to Zishang. After she understood the condition of the bruise in Cuyue's brain, she took out the thunderfire needle and started acupuncture. Dense needle shadows with a bit of thunderfire and green light landed on Cuyue's head and face. The domineering light of the thunderfire crushed over, while the light of the wood spirit followed behind to clean up the aftermath. The bruise that would have taken 7 days to clear started disappearing at a visible rate. Cuyue showed a trace of pain in her coma. Yunjioga immediately stopped. After careful observation, she did not find anything wrong. Ever since she had obtained the wood spirit from the human-faced Peach King, the Thunderfire Needle's life force had become even denser, and its healing effects had become even better. It was impossible for it to hurt Cuyue. However, Cuyue's expression became more and more pained, and tears began to flow from the corners of her eyes. Although Yunjioga did not understand, his hands did not stop moving. Soon, the blood clot disappeared and the seal was lifted. All that was left was to wait for Cuyue to wake up. Have you finished setting up the traps? Yunjioga asked as he put away the needles. If he could capture the person who had secretly saved Cuyue, he might be able to gain something. Yunjioga was very interested in anything that could help her deal with the 3 great elders. I guarantee that he won't be able to return. Zishang was determined to win. Night gradually fell. The 2 maids prepared the meal and invited Yunjioga over to eat. The food was mediocre. She could tell that Jin Yanwei really didn't care much about this place. Other than sending her here at the beginning, he didn't come to visit her again, nor did he send anyone to ask for a message. However, Yunjioga had already learned from Zishang that Enemy Peak was currently facing a great enemy, so she was tactful enough not to cause any trouble for Jin Yanwei. She ate dinner and went to sleep early. It was dark outside, and after midnight, it was even quieter. In a remote bamboo forest behind the mountain, a black shadow quickly ran towards Cuyue's small courtyard. The black shadow was tall and thin, dressed in a nocturnal robe. His face was covered by a black hood, and not even his eyes could be seen. He vigilantly observed his surroundings before tiptoeing into the small courtyard. The black shadow first went to the 2 maids' room and blew a cloud of sleeping smoke into it. When he heard that the breathing inside had deepened, he went to Yunjioga's room and blew a cloud of sleeping smoke as well. Yun Jioga lay on the bed and calmly watched the colorless and odorless smoke slowly spread. She first swallowed an antidote pill, then pretended to be asleep. The black shadow vigilantly scanned Yun Jioga with his divine sense a few times. After confirming that it had been affected, he walked towards Si Yoyue's room. Si Yoyue had just washed her body in the evening and changed into a pale pink dress. Lying on the bed, she looked serene and beautiful. The black shadow stood by the bed and stared at her for a moment, then reached out to touch her head and face. There was still a needle hole left by Yun Jioga's acupuncture at noon. He carefully examined Si Yoyue and found that there was nothing wrong with her. He then took out a gray disc and placed it at the head of the bed. The disc was carved out of spirit wood, and it was densely carved with runes. There were even a few spirit jades placed on it. After it was activated, it spewed out a thick cloud of smoke that enveloped the entire room. The room immediately became incomparably dark, and there was a faint flow of gray yin qi. It turned out to be an offensive and defensive formation. After the black shadow got on the bed, he skillfully untied Si Yoyue's clothes. However, just as he undid her belt, the gray yin qi of the formation fluctuated violently. The black shadow immediately jumped up and quickly jumped towards the window at the back. There was a bamboo forest there, and he had set up a psychedelic defensive formation so that he could escape once he entered it. However, as soon as he jumped out of the window, he felt a sharp pain in his feet, followed by a strong numbness that spread throughout his body. At the same time, a thick green vine emerged from the ground and tied him up like a dumpling. He was shocked, and tried to use all the spiritual power in his body to break free, but a stone flew out of nowhere and hit his Dazui acupoint. His waist went numb, and his spiritual power dissipated. He sat on the ground, paralyzed. In the next second, a demonic youth with red eyes and purple lips walked out of Si Yoyue's room, still holding the disc that he had set up. It was Yun Jioga, who was pretending to be asleep. "Let me see who you really are." Yun Jioga sneered. He stepped forward and pulled off the black shadow's mask. "Why are you here?" Yun Jioga was shocked when she saw the black shadow's true appearance. She would never have guessed that the man who came to molest Si Yoyue in the middle of the night was little Fatty's uncle, Jin Chuan. Jin Chuan frowned and stared at Yun Jioga with a fierce look. "Senior Jin Chuan, I remember that you are the sect master's steward. Why are you looking for senior sister Yoyue at Enemy Peak so late at night?" Yun Jioga was not afraid of him at all. The last time Jin Chuan came looking for her, he had been acting all high and mighty. She was very unhappy, and today was the perfect time for revenge. "This has nothing to do with you. I advise you to mind your own business and worry more about yourself." Jin Chuan's voice was gloomy and threatening. He looked like he was telling her to mind her own business if she could not protect herself. Chapter 343. I don't know if Senior Jin Chuan has heard of the proverb, when there are too many lice, one will not be afraid of an itch. Yun Jioga smiled slightly. Sister is not even afraid of Elder Mo Hua and Elder Bai Gu, why would she be afraid of a small steward like you? Jin Chuan saw through Yun Jioga's rascality. After a moment of silence, he said with a straight face, "I'm here to save Si Yoyue. If your medical skills are really that good, you should have already seen that the divine scent seal on her has loosened a lot." "That's right, I did see that the seal on senior sister Yoyue has loosened a lot. Apart from that, I also saw that the method you used to remove the seal was not very good. It felt like you were taking advantage of her." Yun Jioga was more reserved and did not mention that Jin Chuan was with the female corpse. "That's right, I did use the method of dual cultivation to treat her injuries. But even if she wakes up and finds out about this, she will definitely not blame me." Jin Chuan was very calm. Yun Jioga was actually speechless. With Si Yoyue's style, this kind of dual cultivation to treat illnesses was really nothing to her. "Alright, let me go. If Jin Yanwei finds out, we won't be able to explain ourselves," Jin Chuan said impatiently. "What's there to explain?" Senior Jin Chuan sacrificed himself to save someone. Such a good thing should be known by senior brother Jin. He might even be grateful to you. Yun Jioga had not found out Jin Chuan's purpose in saving Si Yue. How could he let him go so easily? What do you want? Jin Chuan's face darkened. Even though he was tied up and sitting on the ground, his aura was still solemn and dignified. He did not look like a rapist at all. You just need to tell me why you sacrificed yourself to save senior sister Yue. Oh, that's right, there's also this array disc. I remember that the Een Corpse sect is only good at Een spirit talismans and not array formations. Yun Jioga waved the high-grade array disc in his hand. Although she did not know how to draw talisman patterns, she had studied them after following Zishang for so long. The black fog emitted by the array disc seemed to be driven by Een Qi, but it was actually carved with the unique talisman patterns of the Purple Cloud sect. It was exactly the same as the talisman patterns that Nan Gongli had given her. When Jin Chuan heard Yun Jioga's question, a fierce killing intent flashed in his eyes, but it quickly disappeared. Since you insist on asking, then I'm not afraid to tell you. I like to fool around with women like this. I can dual cultivate and feel good at the same time. Saving her was just to prevent others from finding out so that I can use it as an excuse to shirk responsibility. As for that array board, I bought it when I went to Amethyst Mountain for work. Jin Chuan suddenly grinned. His originally serious and rigid face suddenly became incomparably evil and charming. He looked like an out-and-out pervert. If it was someone else, they would probably believe it. After all, an evil sect like the Een Corpse sect had many perverts, so it was normal for them to have this kind of special hobby. However, Yun Jioga instinctively felt that Jin Chuan was lying. Things were definitely not that simple. Just as she was about to continue asking, Zishang transmitted his voice, something happened at enemy peak. Jin Yanwei is heading this way. Yun Jioga decisively gave up on asking. For Jin Lin's sake, I'll let you go this time. Next time, if you want to fool around, you'd better choose the right person to avoid losing yourself. Yun Jioga pinched her fingers and retracted the vines on Jin Chuan's body. Then, she threw the paralysis powder antidote to him. Jin Chuan picked up the antidote and sniffed it. After confirming that it was not poisonous, he swallowed it. Once he regained his mobility, he immediately disappeared into the bamboo forest. Yun Jioga hurriedly returned to the courtyard. Not long later, she saw Jin Yanwei rushing over with a serious expression. Behind him were Manager Chen and the elite disciples of Enemy Peak. Yun Jioga pretended to be sleepy as she walked out. She asked in surprise, "Senior Jin, it's so late. Why did you come? Do you have a mystic Een white bone monkey with you?" Jin Yanwei did not even bother with small talk and asked directly. "That's right." Yun Jioga nodded. From the looks of it, Elder Whitebone had come looking for him. "Take it out for me to see." Jin Yanwei extended his hand and said. "I didn't bring it with me." Yun Jioga would have to be stupid to take it out. Jin Yanwei frowned and said angrily, "Do you know you've gotten into big trouble?" He had originally thought that Yun Jioga had only offended Elder Mo Hua. He had not expected her to have a mystic Een white bone monkey with her. Now that Elder Whitebone and Elder Mo Hua had come together, one wanted the monkey and the other wanted him, he really could not take it anymore. The mystic Een Whitebone monkey is a spiritual being. If it wants to leave, I can't stop it. Yun Jioga said innocently. "Why are you still talking nonsense with me at a time like this? Do you think Elder Mo Hua will believe your nonsense? Be careful that they don't use the soul-searching technique on you if they are forced into a corner." In the past, Su Junqing was pampered, but now, he is still in a miserable state. "Do you want the same?" Jin Yanwei said threateningly. "Even if I use the soul-searching technique, it's useless. I don't have it." Yun Jioga was not afraid. She had Zishang backing her up. It was impossible for those two old things to touch her. You. Jin Yanwei pointed at Yun Jioga and said hatefully, "Alright, I can't protect you anymore. Go talk to Elder Mo Hua and Elder Whitebone yourself." He did not believe that Yun Jioga was not afraid. "It's fine if I go. However, if people talk about enemy peak in the future, I'm afraid no one will dare to come up again." Yun Jioga smiled. It would have been fine if Jin Yanwei had rejected her when she first came up. Now that he had taken her in, he had to hand her over under the pressure of Elder White Bones and Elder Black Flower. Wasn't this telling others that enemy peak was shorter than the other peaks? It would definitely be very embarrassing if word of this got out. "You dare to threaten me?" Although Jin Yanwei had a baby face, he was naturally not a kind person to be able to get to this position on enemy peak. At this moment, he glared and his killing intent surged. "Senior brother Jin, you're worrying too much. I didn't mean that. Didn't you say that you would bring me to see Elder White Bones and Elder Black Flower? Then let's go." Yun Jioga's expression confused Jin Yanwei. Could it be that he was confident that he would not be eaten alive by Elder Whitebone and Elder Mo Hua? However, with his cultivation of Qi refinement stage 5, what bargaining chips could he have? Jin Yanwei was a little bewildered, but he had already spoken and could not go back on his words. For a moment, he was in a difficult position. At this moment, the door of the small courtyard behind him creaked and a delicate and pleasant voice sounded. "Senior Jin, you must not hand him over. Junior sister Yuyue, you're awake." Jin Yanwei looked at Si Yuyue, who was wearing a lotus dress and standing gracefully at the door in shock. He really did not dare to believe his eyes. "It's all thanks to this junior brother's miraculous skills that I was able to wake up." Si Yuyue nodded at Yun Jioga and then said to Jin Yanwei sternly, "Senior brother, this junior brother is a talent. We must not let Whitebone Peak and Ink Flower Peak benefit." Chapter 344. Junior sister Yuyue, your wounds have just healed. Go back and rest. You don't have to worry about this. Jin Yanwei said impatiently. She had been lying on the bed for so long and had yet to figure out the situation. "Senior brother Jin, although I don't know why Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu are so bent on targeting junior brother Yun Jio, I know that whatever they are fighting over must be something good." Si Yoyue's voice was gentle and unhurried, but her words struck a chord with Jin Yanwei. "I understand what you're saying, but the two elders have already said that if we don't hand over the person, they'll personally search for us. Without Master here, we won't be able to hold them down." Jin Yanwei was worried as he spoke of this. "Senior brother, you really like to joke. Junior brother Yunjio isn't at enemy peak. He has hands and feet, so where are we going to find him?" Si Yuyue said with a smile. Jin Yanwei's eyes lit up, but he quickly shook his head and said, "It's impossible for junior brother Yunjio to leave Corpse Sect. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Just find a place to hide him on enemy peak." Si Yuyue said. "Our enemy peak is only so big. The two elders will know everything with their divine sense, unless..." Jin Yanwei said and suddenly thought of a place that the two elders wouldn't find. "Senior brother, are you talking about the forbidden area at the back door?" Si Yuyue immediately saw through Jin Yanwei's thoughts. That was the forbidden area that Chosun had set up. It was filled with traps and restrictions. Other than Jin Yanwei, no one could enter or leave. Yun Jioga had been silently eavesdropping. When he heard the forbidden area, his eyes lit up. This meant that there were many fortuitous encounters. "Yes, that is the most suitable place, but I'm afraid that Master will find out." Jin Yanwei was still afraid that his master would be angry. Senior brother's worries are reasonable. Si Yuyue thought for a moment and said, "How about this? We seal junior brother Yunjio and put a restriction on him. Then, we put him in the outermost area of the forbidden area. As long as he doesn't get close to the center, Elder Chosun won't say anything. However, junior brother Yunjio will have to suffer." Si Yuyue looked at Yun Jioga apologetically. Senior sister Yu, you're too courteous. As long as I can keep my little life, it's already good enough. There's no need to feel aggrieved, Yun Jioge said righteously. But Jin Yanwei was still hesitant. At this moment, the alarm on enemy peak suddenly rang loudly, and the wind and clouds surged. Elder Mo Hua's sharp voice sounded, "Brat Jin, if you don't hand over Yunjiu to me, I'll tear your enemy peak apart." "Alright, let's go to the forbidden area then." Time was of the essence, so he didn't have much time to think about it. Jin Yanwei straightforwardly placed a restriction on Yunjioge, and used a long whip magical artifact to seal off one's aura to tie her up tightly. After confirming that there were no mistakes, he personally carried Yunjioge towards the back of the mountain. He could not help but mutter along the way, "Junior brother Yunjiu, that's my master's forbidden area. There are restrictions everywhere. Once you're inside, just stay put. I'll come get you after I send the two elders away." "Senior brother, what if they don't leave?" Yunjioge asked. "You don't have to worry about that. My master will be back by tomorrow at the latest. When that time comes, they'll have to leave even if they don't want to." Jin Yanwei was very confident in his master's strength. "Alright then. When that time comes, senior brother must put in a good word for me in front of Elder Cho Sen." Yunjioge said sincerely. "Don't worry. As long as you hand over the mystic Yin skeleton monkey, my master will reward you even without my good words." Jin Yanwei secretly said to himself. The forbidden area at the back of the mountain was not wide. After walking along a winding path, he saw a forest of pagoda trees, which was the ghoul corpse killing formation that Elder Cho Sen had meticulously set up. It was filled with ghouls, all of which were good seedlings that Elder Cho Sen had gathered from all over the place. He wanted to use the method of raising goo to kill each other, so that he could cultivate a ghoul king. Although the highest level currently was only a ghost general, it was still enough to crush Jin Yanwei to pieces. Jin Yanwei slowed down and took out a red token the size of a palm from his storage pouch. It was neither made of metal nor wood, and there was a layer of red mist floating above it. He could vaguely see countless ferocious ghosts. This was the pass that his master had given him, so that he could feed these ghouls. Jin Yanwei raised the red token high above his head. A faint red light shone down from the token, secretly wrapping him within it. He slowly walked into the pagoda trees, and a thick corpse aura assaulted his senses. Countless ghouls stood under the trees and stared at him, revealing an instinctive desire for flesh and blood. Although it was not Jin Yanwei's first time here, he still felt his scalp go numb. He randomly found a large pagoda tree, threw the bundled-up Yunjioge over it, and ran away without looking back. Yunjioge leaned against the tree trunk, looking at the pale and ferocious ghouls around her gloomily. Although Jin Yanwei had already given her enough spirit-sealing talismans, it still could not stop the fragrance of her tender flesh. Not long after she put her down, the ghouls began to stir and staggered towards her. This Jin Yanwei must have done this on purpose, so that she could release the profound Yin skeleton monkey to save her life. Although Yunjioge had already seen through their scheme, she had no choice but to comply. Who told him to disappear as soon as he entered the great corpse ghost formation? "Little monkey, come out." Yunjioge carefully chanted the summoning incantation, and the little skeleton monkey flew out from her storage bag. After quickly assembling itself, it spat out a faint yin qi that enveloped her, concealing her human scent. Even so, the ghouls still circled around Yunjioge, as if they were watching a bunch of monkeys. In the blink of an eye, there were 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. The thick corpse stench almost suffocated Yunjioge to death. "Little monkey, spit out some air." Yunjioge could also see that the little skeleton monkey was slacking off. "Kacha kacha." The little skeleton monkey shook its head at Yunjioge in dissatisfaction. The soul fire in its eye sockets was extremely small. It had been locked up for a long time, so naturally it did not want to work. "Little monkey, be good. After big sister is done with this, I'll make you a big bucket of yin chi water to drink, okay?" Yunjioga hurriedly coaxed. Ever since entering the small hidden realm, the profound Yin monkey's source of Yin Qi had been cut off. It was no wonder that it was angry. The skeleton monkey raised a finger, indicating that it wanted to add another bucket. 1 bucket is too much. 2 scoops at most. Yunjioga flatly refused. It was not easy to get a bucket of Yin Qi water for this guy, so she could not let it get used to its bad habit. The little skeleton monkey's soul fire flickered. Then, it seriously stretched out its palm, indicating that it wanted 5 scoops. Fine, 5 scoops it is. Yunjioga gave in. These ghouls were really too smelly. The little skeleton monkey's lower jaw moved in satisfaction, revealing a smile. Then, it prepared to pour more Yin Qi into it. Suddenly, a thumping sound came from the ground in the distance. The surrounding ghouls screamed in fear, then scattered in all directions as if they had seen a ghost. Chapter 345. Yunjioga suddenly clenched her fists and saw a tall, burly, green-eyed ghoul dressed in bronze armor rushing towards her. The ghoul raised a cyan moon saber that was shrouded in black qi. The tip of the saber slashed down viciously at Yunjioga's location. The wind from the saber immediately cut a large crack in the ground. Then, billowing smoke mixed with the sound of an explosion assaulted Yunjioga. Little monkey, run. Yunjioga wanted the white bone monkey to escape with her. She didn't expect the idiot to stand up and leave, leaving Yunjioga on the spot. Boom! At the crucial moment, a purple mist shot out from the imprint on Yunjioga's wrist, wrapping her up tightly. The crack stopped in front of Yunjioga. The corpse ghost roared in anger when its attack missed. It raised its saber and the black energy became stronger as it slashed towards Yunjioga again. But this time, before the saber landed, it was broken by a purplish-black spear. The spear's momentum did not decrease as it sent the corpse ghost flying into the sky. Where did you run off to? Yunjioga asked as she kept the disloyal white bone monkey into her storage bag. Where did you run off to? Yunjioga asked as she kept the disloyal white bone monkey into her storage bag. Where did you run off to just now? Yunjioga asked as she kept the disloyal white bone monkey into her storage bag. Yunjioga's eyes lit up, but when she thought of Elder Cho-sen, she hesitated. Will we be discovered if we barge in like this? With me here, I guarantee he won't find out. Even though the restrictions were not bad, it was not enough in Zishang's eyes. Alright, then let's go in and take a look. Yunjioga immediately became excited. Yunjioga and Zishang followed the mysterious Yin white bone monkey's lead and easily passed through the corpse ghost array. After avoiding many traps, they arrived in front of a dark cave. This cave doesn't look like much. Yunjioga looked around the empty cave and did not find anything out of the ordinary. Condense the Yin energy in your forehead and look carefully. See if there's anything on the ground and walls. Zishang placed his palm behind Yunjioga, lending her some strength. Yunjioga opened his spiritual eye and took a closer look. Indeed, he discovered that the cave walls and the ground were filled with black Yin spirit runes. They were like a spider web that was tightly interwoven, waiting for its prey to take the bait. This is the Netherworld 4 Slaughter Formation. Even though it hasn't been set up completely, its might isn't weak. If one were to enter rashly, then not only would one's body be instantly destroyed by the formation, one's soul would be captured as well. It's extremely vicious. Zishang explained. How do we get in? At first, Yunjioga didn't think so. Now, he realized that the cave was giving off a huge pressure. What are you afraid of when I'm here? Zishang laughed with ridicule, and then he summoned the dark Yin skeleton monkey over. The mystic Yin white bone monkey was very respectful towards Zishang and obediently walked over. Zishang unceremoniously dismantled the mystic Yin white bone and reassembled it into the shape of an umbrella. The monkey head happened to be facing Yunjioga. Why did you do this to it? Yunjioga looked at the skeleton monkey's pitiful soul fire, his heart filled with sympathy. I've thought about it. This Netherworld 4-kill formation requires an extreme yin chi to defend against it, Zishang said. Then will the little monkey be in danger? If there was danger, then forget it. Compared to looking for some unknown watermelon, it was more important to protect this sesame seed in his hand. No, it has eaten too much yin chi during this period of time. It's just right to use this formation to temper it. Zishang had a look of, I'm doing it for its own good. The skeleton monkey's soul fire jumped wildly, as if it was shouting no, 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 no. Good child, only by going through the hardships can you rise to the top. Do your best. Yunjioga patted its big head, and then stood under the umbrella with Zishang. However, this umbrella was still a little small, and couldn't completely cover the two of them. Come up. Zishang squatted down, looking like he was going to let Yunjioga carry him away. Yunjioga didn't hesitate to get on his back. The two of them held the skeleton umbrella and stepped into the cave. The scene in front of them instantly changed drastically. The empty cave turned into boundless darkness. The cries of a baby and the laughter of a child drifted in from an unknown place, disappearing in the blink of an eye. But then, a shrill female voice rang out. It was faint and resentful, as if crying and complaining. It made one's scalp go numb. Yunjioga was a veteran, so she naturally wouldn't be scared by these little tricks. Just as she was about to urge Zishang to continue forward, she realized that the skeleton umbrella in her hands suddenly sank, and she almost dropped it. That's the Netherworld blocking the way. Zishang carried Yunjioga with one hand, and took the skeleton umbrella from her hand with the other. Yunjioga's heart immediately lightened. She was wondering why it felt like there was something sitting on the umbrella. Zishang carried Yunjioga forward in the darkness. Those strange sounds kept disturbing their eardrums. Towards the end, it turned into familiar human voices. Yunjioga even heard the voices of Mother Qing, Yi Yu, and Luo Tian. It made her want to greet them, but she held back in the end. Although Zishang was walking very steadily, Yunjioga could still feel the skeleton umbrella getting heavier and heavier. The sound of bones being squeezed was so unpleasant that it made her teeth ache. Yunjioga was afraid that the skeleton monkey wouldn't be able to hold on, but she saw that the thin white bones kept releasing wisps of yin qi. Under the guidance of Zishang's spiritual power, the yin qi kept forming a cycle, and the bones became more and more solid. In the end, the skeleton umbrella shrunk to half its original size, but the yin qi it emitted doubled. Every thin bone shone with a metallic glow. It seemed like it had successfully advanced. Before Yunjioga could be happy, a cliff suddenly appeared in front of her. The bottom of the cliff was so deep that she couldn't see it, and the mountain wind made her face hurt. Next. Before Yunjioga could finish her question, Zishang had already carried her and jumped down the cliff. Yunjioga thought that she would hear the sound of the wind, but there was nothing. As soon as she jumped down, a stone room appeared in front of her eyes. So the cliff was just an illusion. Zishang put the skeleton monkey away and placed his palm on the stone room. With the invasion of the purple mist, the stone room opened wide, and waves of light came from treasures. This was a treasure room. This treasure room was very spacious. There weren't many things, but they were arranged very neatly. On the left stood a row of Yin corpses that looked like monkeys. There were over 100 of them and they were covered in Yin spirit runes, looking fierce and scary. In the middle was a light screen with over 10 small balls of light. Inside were high-level totem weapons, the lowest was a 4th-grade totem weapon. They were much higher level than Yunjioga's bone spike and thunder snake whip. She couldn't help but be envious, but she didn't dare have any ideas. On the right was a row of medicine cabinets carved from flower branches and spirit wood. Bottles of pills were neatly arranged on top of the cabinets. They were all top-notch pills that were extremely useful for cultivation. There was even a bottle of foundation building pills. Below the cabinets was a huge jade medicine cabinet with countless beautiful blood lotus flowers stacked on top of each other. This elder Chosen is quite rich. Yunjioga was very moved. A golden core ancestor was truly rich. The real good things aren't here. Zishang gave a faint smile and pointed at the bottom of the medicine cabinet. Chapter 346. You mean there's a secret room below? Yunjioga was excited. Being able to be hidden so tightly by Cho Sen, the treasures in this secret room must not be ordinary. Stand back first. Zishang had Yunjioga back to the door. Then he began to draw some runes on the bottom of the medicine cabinet. It was the floating talisman. When the last rune was finished, the small array flashed with a faint blue light. Then the incomparably heavy medicine cabinet slowly rose up, revealing the black-red floor below. This black-red floor was covered in blood-red Een spirit runes. It was like blood-red eyes staring at the intruder, releasing a cold and gloomy aura. Zishang had done a lot of research on nether spirit formations. Once he found the entry point, he poured an extremely pure purple qi into it. The blood-red eyes seemed like they were hypnotized as they slowly closed their eyes. Following that, the floor split open on both sides, and a blood-red coffin emerged from the ground. The Een spirit runes carved on the coffin looked like blood-red chains, and it emitted a nauseating stench. Yunjioga quickly swallowed 2 poison-repelling pills, feeling a bit better. He asked Zishang, "This coffin doesn't seem right." The Een spirit runes on it are soul-nourishing talismans. It uses the spiritual energy of the blood to nourish the soul. Zishang said this while walking around the coffin a few times, carefully studying the method to open it. "Do you think the thing inside is Cho Sen's Een corpse?" Yunjioga asked with great interest. It said that no one in the Een corpse sect had ever seen Cho Sen's Een corpse. "We'll know once we open it." Zishang quickly found a way to open it. After pouring in his unique purple demonic energy, the lid of the coffin opened to the side. A very nice fragrance came from the coffin. It was the smell of the blood lotus. Yunjioga couldn't help looking into the coffin. He was instantly shocked. What was lying inside was not a Een corpse, but rather a beautiful girl wearing sky-blue robes. Her skin was white, her eyebrows were like a painting, her nose was straight and delicate, her red lips were slightly curled up, as if she was smiling, making people feel happy. Her chin was small and exquisite. It was very perfect. But the most important thing was that this young girl was actually at the late golden core stage. With Cho Sen's temper, he should have immediately refined this kind of good material into a Een corpse. Why would he put it here? Yunjioga couldn't help but take a closer look at the girl. He found that Si Yoyue's chin was somewhat similar to this girl's. Could this be the reason why Cho Sen doted on Si Yoyue? Then what was the relationship between this girl and Cho Sen? They couldn't be lovers, right? Huh? This woman's soul has been taken away. Zishang raised his eyebrows. Cultivators in the later stage of the gold core realm all had the ability to self-destruct their gold core. When they encountered a situation where they could not be saved, they would use this big move. Therefore, it was very difficult to take away their souls, unless it was an old monster in the nascent soul realm. Could he have been taken away by Cho Sen? Yunjioga instantly imagined a scene of a scumbag with a knife. Judging from Elder Mo Hua's ruthlessness, there was a high possibility of that happening. Zishang shook his head. "I don't think so. Look at the water in the coffin. It's formed by the blood lotus. There's no need for him to capture a person's soul and spend so much effort to preserve the corpse." Zishang shook his head. Only then did Yunjioga realize that the amber liquid in the coffin was formed by the blood lotus. The bloodthirsty sect helped Cho Sen grow flowers in the Thunder Nation. Every year, they had to kill countless people for 10 flowers to mature. He didn't expect Cho Sen to use them as formalin. However, what shocked Yunjioga the most was the small silk-like object in the girl's hand. If she wasn't wrong, it was a treasure map. Yunjioga couldn't help but reach out to take it. However, Zishang stopped him. "Don't move. Be careful of her corpse transformation." Corpse transformation. Didn't you say she wasn't a Een corpse? Yunjioga stopped and asked. Look carefully at what's in the water. Zishang opened Yunjioga's spirit eye. Yunjioga looked carefully and realized that there were many transparent bugs in the water. They were densely packed and in the shape of chains. They were extremely similar to the Een spirit runes on the outside of the coffin. Those are all high-level corpse bugs. If you encounter this woman, those corpse bugs will immediately cover her body and use her gold core late-stage cultivation to fight you to the end. Zishang said. Then forget it. Yunjioga was only here for sightseeing. He didn't want to cause such a big trouble. Although I can't take it away, I can still take a look. Zishang's fingers moved slightly. The silk seemed to have a life of its own as it flew up and appeared in front of Yunjioga. This treasure map was extremely big. It was the size of 3 palms. Yunjioga took out the treasure map that he found on the Crown Prince and the Yi sisters. It really did match. Moreover, more than half of it was restored. Only a quarter of it was missing. I want it. Yunjioga was excited. As long as he could get this treasure map, he wasn't afraid of any commotion. Now is not the time. Zishang shook his head. His fingers moved again and the treasure map returned to the girl's hand. All right. Although Yunjioga felt a little regretful, he wasn't very disappointed. Since he already knew that the item was here, he could come back to take it when he had the chance. Let's go. After Zishang restored everything to its original state, he brought Yunjioga out of the treasure room and returned to the ghoul corpse array. Elder Mo Hua's incomparably furious voice echoed in the sky. Yunjioga, you brat, how dare you trick me? How dare you? Don't think that you'll be safe just because you're hiding in enemy peak. Do you believe that I won't skin you alive after I get my hands on you? Her tone sounded like Yunjioga was cheating her of her money and sex. Yunjioga felt that she was being wronged. She had never agreed to be Elder Mo Hua's male pet. How was this cheating? Yunjioga, don't be afraid. Come out in peace. I'll protect you. Elder Whitebone's friendly voice sounded behind Elder Mo Hua. You just have to give me the abstruse Een white skeleton monkey. Anyway, that treasure won't be of much use in your hands. Why don't you exchange it with me for a suitable cultivation method or magic item? Or if you want a foundation establishment pill, that's fine too. I have 3 with me. I'll give them all to you. Whitebone's old man, are you trying to snatch people from me? Elder Mo Hua flew into a rage out of humiliation. Mo Hua, don't be angry. I'll help you find a group of better disciples later and send them to your Mo Hua palace as an apology. Elder Whitebones looked like he was in the mood to negotiate. Do you think I care? Old Elder Mo was very dissatisfied. We're all old friends. All the disciples of the Een Corpse sect are listening. Give me some face. Elder Whitebones played the emotional card. The 2 of them echoed each other. One white face and the other black face, they spoke in full swing. It was as if the 2 of them had really reconciled and were going to arrange a good place for Yunjioga. Chapter 347. If it was any other disciple, they would have been tempted to surrender. After all, these promises were made in front of the entire Een Corpse sect. No matter how thick Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu's skin was, they couldn't go back on their words. But the truth was that these words were said by the 2 of them to this small forbidden area using their divine sense. Other than Yunjioga and Zishang, no one else heard these promises. But as long as Yunjioga agreed, Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu could immediately lock onto her divine sense and forcefully form a contract. Yunjioga naturally wouldn't fall for this. She ignored the 2 elders' chatter and took out the evolved profound Een white bone monkey to examine it carefully. At this time, the profound Een white bone monkey had already been tempered to the size of a palm. Its small bones were no longer pale white, but instead glowed faintly. It was like jade but not jade, crystal clear. The soul fire in its eye sockets had condensed into a soul stone. It looked like 2 red gems were embedded in it. The entire white bone was as beautiful as a work of art. In the future, you don't need to open it and put it in a bag. Zishang rubbed the white bone monkey's head. It felt good. The white bone monkey heard that it didn't need to be locked in the small black room anymore. Before it could be happy, Zishang added, just tie it up and hang it around your waist. Good idea. Yunjilga immediately took out a red rope and wrapped it around the white bone monkey's neck twice before hanging it around his waist. The light white bone monkey didn't have any weight and hanging it around his waist didn't affect him at all. Kacha. The white bone monkey wanted to protest angrily but it failed under Zishang's gaze. It could only hang its head in despair, looking like a hanged ghost. Just as Yunjilga and Zishang were excitedly torturing the pitiful white bone monkey, the great hall of Enemy Peak was already burning with the flames of war. Little brat Jean, I think you want to do this the hard way. Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu spoke for a long time but couldn't get a response from Yunjilga. They couldn't help but flare up at Jin Yanwei. Elders, junior brother Yunjio really isn't at Enemy Peak. Don't make things difficult for me. Jin Yanwei had a bitter expression and acted very well. Stinking brat, you still dare to put on an act in front of me? Do you believe that I will use the soul-searching technique on you? Elder Mo Hua's beautiful eyes were filled with murderous intent. She raised her hand and condensed a large hand made of yin energy to grab Jin Yanwei's head. Jin Yanwei subconsciously took out his dark flame bone spur and dispersed Elder Mo Hua's yin chi hand. Not good. Jin Yanwei immediately realized that he had made a mistake. As expected, Elder Mo Hua immediately narrowed his eyes and said eerily, "Good boy, you actually dare to go against your superiors and attack an elder. Today, I will help your master teach you a good lesson." With that, a black peony flower flew out from her storage pouch and flew towards Jin Yanwei. Although Jin Yanwei was at the mid-stage of foundation establishment, he was still nothing in front of Elder Mo Hua. The black dark flame bone spike was devoured by the Mo Hua and he was rooted to the spot. He could only watch as the Mo Hua opened its mouth and attacked him. Right at this moment, an extremely cold gust of wind blew outside the hall. In the next moment, Jin Yanwei was pulled away by a small figure. Replacing him were 3 tall and mighty monster monkey-yin corpses with fierce expressions. Master! Jin Yanwei excitedly looked at the small figure in front of him and almost cried. Mo Hua, White Bones, you took advantage of my absence to bully my disciple. Do you think I'm dead? Although Chosun still looked like a 5-year-old child, his small body released a terrifying aura. 24 bat-shaped bone spurs floated behind him and the 6 monster monkey-yin corpses surrounded Elder White Bones and Elder Mo Hua, looking like they wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop. I was just joking with your disciple, there's no need to be so serious. Elder Mo Hua immediately put away her Mo Hua flower and said with a charming smile, speaking of which, it's your disciple's fault. She actually protected my defected male pet, she really doesn't put me in her eyes. Stop saying useless words. Since you dare to be so presumptuous in my territory, you'll have to pay the price in blood. Chosun had a fierce expression and the monster monkey-yin corpses let out roars, revealing their mouths full of sharp white teeth. I already said it was a joke. If you don't believe me, you can ask White Bones. Actually, we came here to discuss the matter of the small secret realm with you. Elder Mo Hua looked at Elder White Bones. Before coming here, they had already agreed to form an alliance. If you dare retreat, this old lady won't forgive you. Elder White Bones had been observing Chosun silently. When he heard Elder Mo Hua's call for help, he grinned and said to Chosun, I heard that you went to the ruins. You must have gained a lot, right? You can exchange these demon corpses. It has nothing to do with you. Chosun coldly replied. Elder Mo Hua found some clues. Looking carefully, she found that these monster monkey-eaten corpses were all injured and the 24 bat bone spurs were very dim. It was clear that they had gone through a large battle. The bone spurs and eaten corpses were already this rotten, so the person must not be any better. Elder Mo Hua was instantly relieved. She charmingly smiled at Cho Sen and said, "Since you're injured, don't try to show off. Even if I'm injured, I can still kill you too." Cho Sen was not afraid at all. Rather, his killing intent increased by a level. This was the prelude to the counterattack of an injured beast. "Cho Sen, we're all from the same sect, wouldn't it be a joke to fight over a little disciple?" Elder White Bones was very afraid of Cho Sen, so she immediately changed her tone. That's right, he's just a boy toy. If your disciple likes him, then he can have him. There's no need to harm our relationship." Elder Mo Hua followed up. Fuck. Jin Yanwei really wanted to curse. Not to mention that he couldn't mess around with his cultivation technique. Even if he wanted to mess around, he would find a fragrant woman. Who would like Yunjio's corpse poison face? Cho Sen did not say anything, but his aura eased up a bit. At least he didn't look like he was going to fight to the death. The White Bone Elder saw that there was hope, so he said, "You know how important the profound Een White Bone Monkey is to me. We have been in the same sect for so long, so just do me a favor. We can use something to exchange for it." Using something to exchange for it was already a sign of submission. Cho Sen's face was expressionless. After a while he asked, "What do you want to use to exchange?" "I'll use a branch of the black bone leopard pattern wood to exchange for that brat Yunjio." Elder Mo Yun said first. Although this chip wasn't very expensive, it was enough to exchange for a disciple at the 3rd chi refining stage. "I'll use a high-grade 3rd grade dark spirit bone to exchange for the profound Een White Bone Monkey." Elder White Bones said. Although this Een spirit bone wasn't very high grade, it was still very hard to obtain. Although Cho Sen couldn't use it, it was very good to polish it and give it to a disciple. For example, when Jin Yanwei heard about the dark spirit bone, his eyes couldn't help but light up. If Cho Sen refused, it would definitely leave a knot in Jin Yanwei's heart. Even if he didn't dare to complain to his master, he would still vent his anger on Yunjio Go. "Fine, you guys go catch him yourselves." Cho Sen finally gave in. This time, he came across an ancient ruin. Although he got a lot of good things, he was seriously injured in the fight and needed to recuperate. He wasn't in the mood to participate in these trivial matters, so he could only let these two guys benefit. Chapter 348. We would like to capture them ourselves, but I'm afraid it's inconvenient. Elder White Bones said meaningfully. Cho Sen frowned and looked at Jin Yanwei, asking, "Where did you lock them up?" Jin Yanwei's forehead immediately broke out in sweat as he stammered, locked them up in the back mountain." Idiot. Cho Sen could not be bothered to beat his stupid disciple to death as he hurriedly flew towards the forbidden area. Elder Black Flower and Elder White Bones looked at each other and followed to watch the show. At this moment, Yunjioga was still squatting in the ghoul corpse array. Before she could rejoice over the White Bone Monkey's advancement, she found out from Zi Shang that Cho Sen had sold her to Elder White Bones and Elder Black Flower. "Cho Sen is not my master, nor is he my parents, why would he sell me?" Yunjioga was furious. She had wanted to use this opportunity to start a war between the three elders, but she did not expect Cho Sen to be so useless. "I can't stay here any longer." Zi Shang had originally wanted to let Cho Sen fight with Black Flower and White Bones first, then he would reap benefits as Yunjioga's Een corpse. He did not expect Cho Sen to return injured. Now that his plan had failed, he had to put in more effort to escape. "If we leave now, what about the Een corpse bone controlling technique?" Yunjioga was unwilling. "Aren't you not interested?" Zi Shang glanced at her. Not wanting to cultivate and not being able to cultivate are two different things. Yunjioga was unwilling. "I'll think of a way later." There were too many troubles staying here, it was better to leave and think of a way later. Zishang was still very open-minded. All right. Yunjioga could only accept her fate. Stay alert, once Chosun comes in, we'll leave. Zishang had already done something to the ghoul corpse array, it should be able to buy them some time. Yunjioga also knew that today was a tough battle, so she immediately became alert and looked at the surging yin qi above her head. Behind them were 5 rows of ghouls, all of them staring at the sky with hatred on their faces. The one leading them was the bronze ghost general that Zishang had sent flying. Its face was filled with deep hatred, the large blade in its hand was pointed at the sky. Cho Sen's speed was extremely fast. Once he saw the locust tree forest, he rushed in without hesitation. This was his territory, and the one being locked up was a little brat at the 5th stage of qi condensation. Even if Yunjio had the mysterious Yin white bone, he didn't take it to heart. Cho Sen had just rushed into the locust tree forest when he was greeted by a black light. The ghouls he had raised all charged at him as if they had seen an enemy. Well, in a sense, Chosun was indeed their enemy. Chosun formed a hand seal, wanting to control the ghoul corpse array to suppress these ghouls who dared to rebel. Unexpectedly, the ghoul corpse formation did not operate according to his will. Instead, a large amount of black and red corpse qi gushed out from the corner, causing the ghouls to become even more violent. Corpse King Qi. Chosun was overjoyed when he saw the black and red corpse qi. This kind of situation could only appear when there was a corpse king. Could it be that there was a corpse king here when he was not here? However, on second thought, he felt that something was wrong. The most powerful ghoul in this ghoul corpse formation was only at the level of a ghost general. Even if the other ghouls ate immortal pills, they would not be able to evolve so quickly. Many thoughts flashed through Cho Sen's mind, but his hands did not slow down. He pointed at the place where the corpse qi had erupted and the bat bone spikes swarmed over, but he never thought that they would be trapped by the black and red corpse qi. Cho Sen's brows furrowed, and he brought the demon monkey Yin corpse to personally investigate the situation. Let's go. Zishang saw that Cho Sen had fallen for his trap, so he immediately carried Yunjioga and flew out of enemy peak. Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bones were floating in the air watching the show. Suddenly, they saw a figure charging out of the locust tree forest as fast as lightning, and they subconsciously blocked it. Elder Mo Hua's ink flower released countless petals, like a goddess scattering flowers. It was extremely spectacular. In reality, it was a group of the most savage bloodthirsty flying insects, covering the sky as they attacked Yunjioga and Zishang. Elder White Bones took off the string of small skulls from his neck and threw them out, turning them into 5 large skulls. The soul fire in the eyes of the large skulls was dark black, and their bodies were covered in an incomparably dense black mist. They charged forward like a meteor chasing the sun, their speed was even faster than Elder Mo Hua's goddess scattering flowers. The two of them had used their strongest killing moves from the start, and they were extremely fast. If Zishang continued to fly, he would lose the initiative and fall into a passive state. He carried Yunjioga and decisively turned around. He raised his palm lightly, and without revealing anything, he shot out a large amount of grey Yin qi at the large skulls that were flying over. The large skulls opened their mouths, and all the Yin qi was sucked into their mouths. The Yin corpse sect's magic weapons were mainly for devouring, and Elder White Bones was no exception. These 5 skulls had a huge appetite, and nothing could escape their mouths. It was a pity that they were hit this time. The grey Yin qi that they had just swallowed was mixed with countless amounts of cold energy, and it instantly froze them into 5 large ice cubes, and they began to roll around on the spot. Elder Mo Hua's goddess scattering flowers was also blocked by the Yin qi that Zishang had created. Living corpse. Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bones' eyes were extremely sharp, and in just a few moves, they had clearly seen Zishang's appearance. Grey hair and grey eyes, a stunning appearance, and agile movements. Its body was filled with a thick corpse aura, and it was actually a 1,000-year-old living corpse. Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bone's eyes instantly shone with a blazing light, and without a word, they attacked Zi Shang like wild beasts fighting for food. I say, when the two of you fight for something, can't you show some respect to me, your master? Yun Jioge was lying on Zi Shang's back, extremely dissatisfied. With her current Qi refinement stage 5 cultivation, she naturally could not participate in such a high-level battle. Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bones did not dare to kill such a rare living corpse, so Zi Shang could deal with them with ease. Unfortunately, he could not find a chance to kill his way out. Yun Jioge was also extremely anxious on Zi Shang's back. Sigh, it was still too early to expose herself. If she was given half a year to cultivate, she would definitely be able to advance to the foundation establishment stage. Although she could not participate in the Battle of the Golden Core Ancestors, at least she could fly on her own, and would not be a burden on Zi Shang's back. Little Yunjiu is really capable, this living corpse is yours, right? Elder Mo Hua finally saw the clues. The person that the living corpse was protecting with all its might was not her backup male pet, Yunjiu. Yun Jioge did not make a sound, but Elder Mo Hua did not need her to answer, and directly came to a conclusion, as expected of the person I fancy, you really have great fortune. Hurry up and bring this living corpse to me, I will not mistreat you. Mo Hua, have you forgotten that I'm still here? Elder White Bones said with a faint smile. White Bones, it's enough for you to have the abstruse white skeleton monkey, why are you fighting with me over this living corpse? Mo Hua's teasing was filled with determination. She really liked this living corpse. It was so beautiful and so powerful. What was a blood contract? As long as she controlled Yunjiu, it was equivalent to controlling this living corpse. Although it would be a little troublesome to use it, she did not mind. Chapter 349. This is such a good corpse and you want to take it for yourself, your idea is too good. If you want it, then give me 100-year-old black bone leopard pattern bamboo. The white bone elder focused on controlling bones and his corpses were also white bones. The corpse in front of him had a blood contract with Yun Jiu and was not as important to him as the profound white bone monkey. But this did not stop him from asking for more benefits. 100-year-old black bone leopard pattern bamboo, to think you can say that. Why don't you just go steal it? The black bone leopard pattern wood was hard to grow and she had only collected 20 of them after planting them for so many years, she could not give it to others. Then 5 it is. The white bone elder tactfully lowered the price. This black bone leopard patterned wood could help the corpses refine their qi, so 5 was enough. Elder Mo Hua's face was livid, constantly changing, it was clear that he was not willing to give up the 5 black bone leopard pattern bamboo. Although the two of them did not forget to attack each other during the negotiation, they were still a bit lax. Yun Jioge couldn't help urging Zi Shang to run for his life. Otherwise when Chosun came out, he would not be able to win against the 3 of them. There's no hurry, Zi Shang replied calmly. If this wasn't urgent, then when would he be urgent? Yun Jioge really wanted to kneel down to Zi Shang. But this fellow was still leisurely fighting with him, it really was infuriating. You better make your decision quickly, otherwise when Chosun comes out, you'll have to pay him more. The white bone elder kindly reminded Elder Mo Hua. Alright, 5 it is. Help me take him down. Elder Mo Hua quickly made his decision. The white bone elder was speaking the truth. Chosun was someone who would take advantage of others, if they couldn't take care of him in time, they would lose even more. Good. The white bone elder said this and took out a corpse refining bag from his waist. In the next moment, a 10-meter-tall white bone corpse wearing armor and holding a golden sword appeared in front of Yun Jioge. Elder Mo Hua also took out his corpse, it was actually a baby. His skin was purplish-black, and his face was terrifyingly dry. He was only wearing a red dudu, and what was embroidered on the dudu was not an auspicious pattern, but a picture of 100 ghosts struggling in hell. Yun Jilga had cultivated in the Een corpse sect for a long time, so he was very familiar with all kinds of Een corpses. With a glance, he could tell that the infant corpse in front of him was one of the ghost corpses. First, he refined an infant with a Een spirit root into a mummy, and then stuffed it with 81 high-grade malicious spirits. The ghost corpses refined this way had the ability to teleport, and were best at sneak attacks. This infant corpse still couldn't walk, and as soon as it appeared, it crawled in the air. After crawling a few steps forward, he disappeared from where he was. Then, he suddenly appeared in front of Zishang and stretched out his little hand towards Zishang while babbling. The small palm was also purplish-black in color, but there was a black hole in the center of the palm. Countless ghosts were screaming and pouncing toward them. Zishang's reaction was extremely fast. Almost at the instant the infant corpse appeared, he kicked it towards Elder Mo Hua before the spirits could even appear. With a bang, the black cloud of petals scattered. At this time, Elder White Bone's Een corpse also attacked with its golden sword. It wasn't fast, but its defense was shocking. Zishang's gray spear condensed from death chi couldn't shake it at all, so it could only move around and fight. But even like this, Zishang's performance was enough to shock Elder White Bone and Elder Mo Hua. Elder Mo Hua beat her chest and stamped her feet. This living corpse was already this strong after forming a blood contract with a 5th Chi disciple layer cultivator. Wouldn't she be even stronger? Thinking of this, Elder Mo Hua looked at Yun Jilga with eyes filled with killing intent, as if saying, "You destroyed this old lady's treasure." Yun Jilga was already numb to Elder Mo Hua's unrequited love. She focused all her attention on the direction of enemy peak, praying that Chosun wouldn't appear so soon. It would be best if he could immediately go into closed-door cultivation to heal his injuries. It was a pity that her wish quickly fell through. There was a flapping sound coming from the top of enemy peak. 20 black bat bone spikes flew over, with a 5-year-old child standing on the bone spike at the front. It was Elder Cho Sr. This guy really came fast. Elder Mo Hua was very annoyed. "There's no other way, you better give him a share," Elder White Bone said gloatingly. He was already feeling a little regretful when he saw how powerful this living corpse was. Now that he saw Chosun coming over, he really hoped that he would let Mo Hua bleed so that she wouldn't be twice as powerful after obtaining this living corpse. "Chosun, this living corpse has already formed a blood contract with my boy pet, don't fight for it," Elder Mo Hua said with a charming smile, not feeling that it was strange to be flirting with Chosun, who looked like a 5-year-old child. "What's in it?" Chosun said expressionlessly. He dragged his tired and injured body over not to watch Elder Mo Hua flirt, but to get a share. "What do you want?" Elder Mo Hua said unwillingly. 20 black bone leopard bamboo. Chosun demanded an exorbitant price, angering Elder Mo Hua so much that she almost vomited blood. She suppressed the anger in her heart and said, 5, the same as white bone." "All right." Chosun also knew when to stop. "One hand over the money, one hand over the goods, let's finish this quickly." Elder Mo Hua turned around and glared at Yun Jilga, wanting to skin her alive. Yun Jilga couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Although Zishang's performance was very strong, fighting 1 against 3 was too strange. She didn't know what kind of move he would make. "Hold on tight." Zishang secretly sent a sound transmission to Yun Jilga before placing his finger on his forehead. The blood tattoos that he had hidden slowly appeared, appearing very conspicuous on his pale white skin. "Blood Eye." Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bone both cried out in alarm before quickly retreating. Even the heaven-shattering Chosun didn't dare come close. This blood eye was something that only Een corpses with special physiques could cultivate. It had a strong and terrifying curse ability. It was one of the most troublesome skills. Zishang wasn't a Een corpse, so naturally he didn't have the blood eye ability, but this didn't stop him from overstepping his boundaries. When he was prepared to open the fake blood eye and give the 3 of them a real curse, a bell suddenly rang from the Een corpse sect master's peak. That was the sound of the sect master returning. As the bell rang, an extremely pure Yin energy rushed out from the Yin energy cemetery of Yin Corpse sect, separating Yunjioga from Cho Sen and the others. Yunjioga broke out in a cold sweat when she heard the bell. This sect master had always been secretive. It was said that he didn't appear even once in 10 years. Only when the three elders couldn't make a decision would he send a message back to solve the problem. This time in the small mystery realm, he had also sent a message to the three elders to find out the reason for his disappearance. He didn't expect that he would suddenly return. Go, go, Yunjioga urged. She wanted to jump off Zishang's back and slip away. The sect master had the right to activate the sect's protective formation. If they were really trapped here, they really wouldn't be able to escape. Chapter 350. No need. Zishang had already realized that the Yin energy was protecting them. At this moment, an ancient voice came from the sect master's hall and entered everyone's ears clearly. Come down. Elder Whitebone and Elder Mo Hua immediately stopped and landed in the hall without delay. It seemed that they were very respectful towards this sect master. Cho Sen also followed them with a stern expression. Let's go take a look. Zishang also landed at the entrance of the sect master's hall with Yunjioga. The grey hall was empty and cold with a tall and majestic stone door. A tall man in black stood in the middle of the hall and said coldly with his back facing everyone, I actually didn't know that Yin Corpse sect had become such a place where the strong bullies the weak and openly bullies disciples. Sect master, you've misunderstood. Elder Mo Hua wanted to explain but was rudely interrupted by the sect master. My Yin Corpse sect is not your harem. If you can't control yourself, then scram to Huan sect. Elder Mo Hua immediately did not dare to say anything. If she could stay in Huan sect, why would she come to Yin Corpse sect? Whitebone, don't covet the junior's things. The sect master raised his hand and a palm-sized yellow crystal flew towards him. It was a bone crystal that was even more valuable than the profound Yin Whitebone monkey. Sect master, I was wrong. Elder Whitebone broke out in a cold sweat and bowed his head. He did not dare to accept the bone crystal. Thus, the bone crystal flew back into the sect master's hand. It seemed that he did not intend to give it away for free. Elder Chosen did not say a word and the sect master ignored him. Instead, he suddenly gave an order. From today onwards, Yunjio is a disciple of our sect master's peak. If anyone dares to have any ideas about him, don't blame me for being impolite. After saying that, he flicked his sleeves and disappeared from the spot. From the beginning to the end, he didn't even turn around to look at the crowd. Yunjioga was stunned by this pie that fell from the sky and stood rooted to the ground. This sect master had used the back of his head to suppress three elders. He was too awesome and had character. Little Yunjio is really lucky. Elder Mo Hua looked at Yunjioga eerily, then looked at Zishang, who was standing next to her, with a pained expression. Zishang took a step back and hid himself behind Yunjioga. This made Elder Mo Hua even angrier. The cooked duck had flown away. She was so angry that her teeth were about to bleed. But since the sect master had given the order, no matter how brave she was, she wouldn't dare to openly force him. Elder Mo Hua, you flatter me. Yunjioga regained his senses and immediately returned the favor. I hope you can live up to my compliment. Elder Mo Hua fiercely threw down this sentence and left without looking back. Elder Whitebones swept his gaze over Yunjioga. Although he didn't say anything, his expression clearly said, just you wait, I'll kill you one day. As for Cho Sen, he had already turned around and left the moment the sect master left. In the blink of an eye, she was the only one left in the hall. What do we do now? Yunjioga looked at Zishang. This fellow was also a freak. Previously, when he was forced to hide, he wanted to show his face every day. Now that he could appear openly, he fell in love with being invisible. Of course it's to cultivate in seclusion at the sect master's mountain. Don't show yourself before you advance to the foundation establishment stage. Zi Shang said. They had offended the 3 elders today. It was better for them to go into seclusion and lie low. Yun Jioga deeply agreed with him. She remembered that Jin Chuan was the manager of the sect master's mountain. It was definitely the right choice to look for him. Just as she left the hall, she saw a tall and skinny figure appear on the mountain path. It was Jin Chuan. Senior Jin Chuan, I was just about to look for you. Yun Jioga greeted him warmly. Jin Chuan looked at her coldly and said in an indifferent tone, I didn't expect you to be so capable. You actually made the sect master personally come back to take you in as a disciple. The sect master has a good eye for heroes. Yun Jioga said shamelessly. Other than this reason, she couldn't think of any other reason. TSK, hero. Jin Chuan didn't hide his disdain at all. Yun Jioga forgave him for being short-sighted and changed the topic. Senior Jin Chuan, since the sect master has already taken me in as a disciple, where is my cave abode? The sect master didn't give me any instructions. How would I know? Jin Chuan's attitude was very bad. It didn't seem like he was familiar with Yun Jioga at all. Senior Jin Chuan, if I remember correctly, I still have something on you. Yun Jioga couldn't help but remind him to be nicer and not to offend her. Do you think you still have a way to go back to Enemy Mountain and complain? Jin Chuan sneered, his face full of confidence. Yun Jioga was stunned. Finally, she squeezed out a sentence. I don't need to complain. I just need to tell senior sister Yu. After all, she was her savior on the surface. She should believe her, right? Up to you. If you want to complain, go ahead. Jin Chuan waved his hand indifferently and walked into the hall to do his own things. Why don't you beat him up? Yun Jioga asked. This Jin Chuan was so despicable. He had to be beaten up. Keep a low profile. Zi Shang rolled his eyes at Yun Jioga. She had just entered the sect master's mountain and she was already causing trouble. Was she afraid that others would think too highly of her? All right. Yun Jioga admitted. To her, keeping a low profile was very important. Since Jin Chuan wouldn't help her arrange a cave, she would find it herself. Yun Jioga did what she said. She immediately summoned the treasure-seeking scorpion and ordered, help me find a place with dense spiritual energy. I want to open a cave. All right. The treasure-seeking scorpion immediately agreed. It jumped off the ground and began to search. Yun Jioga took advantage of this time to walk around the sect master's mountain. The sect master's mountain was very large, but there were very few people. There were also very few disciples. It was said that no disciple had joined the sect master's mountain in a long time. This was because once a new disciple came, no one would care about them. The sect master was not here for many years. Everything was left to the vice peak master. But this vice peak master was a strange person. He was in closed-door cultivation for many years and threw everything to his eldest disciple, Xian Ning. Xian Ning was a very loyal person. It was a pity that after he reached the late foundation establishment realm, he went out to train in order to find his own Yin corpse. It had already been 2 years, but there was no reply. If it wasn't for the fact that his soul lamp was still lit, people would have thought that he had already died. The sect master's mountain was like a group of dragons without a leader. Everyone swept the snow in front of their door, not caring about the frost on other people's roof. The new disciples were left to fend for themselves. There was no one to teach them techniques and there was no one to guide them in cultivation. The disciples that joined before had all secretly changed sects and went to other peaks. The other peaks accepted them unconditionally, making the sect master's mountain even more desolate. The sect master's mountain is this desolate, but Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bone are still afraid of the sect master. This sect master is definitely not simple. Yun Jioga had a look of sorrow. She had a very good impression of this sect master who saved her from danger. Chapter 351. Sect Master is in the later stages of the Golden Core realm while Ink Flower and White Bone are in the early stages. How can they not be afraid? Zishang scoffed. Yun Jioge was used to being beaten down by Zishang. He ignored his disdain and continued to ask, "Did you see Sect Master's face just now?" Besides finding secret rooms and breaking mechanisms, Zishang was also very good at peeking. "I saw a little, but I'm not sure." Zishang frowned. For some reason, he felt that Sect Master looked like a person. "What did you see? Draw it for me." Yun Jioge felt that he had to at least have an idea of what Sect Master looked like. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing if he couldn't recognize him the next time they met. Zishang hesitated for a moment but still drew the portrait of Sect Master. Yun Jioge looked at the portrait of Sect Master and almost fainted. "Why did you draw Yin Shirley?" "That Sect Master looks like Yin Shirley," Zishang said. "Impossible." Yun Jioge denied flatly. Yin Shirley was an unambitious little steward of the outer sect who only wanted to reunite with his family. How could he be related to the mighty Lord Sect Master? This was simply too ridiculous. Zishang didn't explain further. Whether it was or not, there would be a chance to verify it in the future. Anyway, with him around, Xiao Jioge wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Just then, the ground under Yun Jioge's feet flashed yellow and treasure-seeking scorpion appeared. It waved its two pincers excitedly and shouted, "Master, Master, I found a super good place. It's at the mountainside. Let's go take a look." Yun Jioge immediately followed treasure-seeking scorpion to the mountainside excitedly. There were weeds in front of them and it was extremely desolate. There wasn't a single cave abode nearby. It was really a good place to settle down. "Dig down from here and you'll find a spirit vein." Treasure-seeking scorpion pointed to the ground. "Spirit vein, don't tell me it's the spirit vein of Sect Master Peak." Yun Jioge frowned. This was public property and she couldn't do anything to it. No, this spirit vein is very small. It's just a branch." Treasure-seeking scorpion wasn't stupid. Why would it dig a hole for its master? Moreover, those thick, big, and good spirit veins were all occupied by others. It was impossible to go there even if it wanted to. That's good. Yun Jioge was completely relieved. He took out his bone spur and dug in the direction that the treasure-seeking scorpion had pointed. The hard and dry cave wall in front of him was as soft as tofu in front of the bone spikes. It was as easy as blowing off dust. Yun Jioge quickly dug out a passageway. When he sensed the dense spiritual energy, he immediately decided to stay there. She first installed the wooden door before setting up a defensive formation with Zishang. Finally, she hung up Yun Jioge's name tag, officially declaring that this place belonged to her. After Yun Jioge fixed the lintel, he continued to build his little nest. She widened and enlarged the front chamber to serve as an antechamber for visitors. Then, he dug out 4 ear chambers at the back, which were used as a quiet room, a bedroom, an alchemy room, and a spirit pet room. The meditation room, bedroom, and alchemy room were all very simple, but she had to spend a lot of effort to decorate the spiritual pet room. First, he divided the room into 3 separate rooms, then covered them with soft cotton wool and planted different kinds of beautiful flowers to decorate them. Finally, he put the treasure-seeking scorpion couple, Pippi Mouse, and the insect cocoon made by the little mother goo into these 3 separate rooms. After eating the pearl fish's inner core, the female scorpion's body became fatter again, from the size of 3 fingers to the size of a palm. The originally light purple carapace now had a little colorful pattern, which would reflect a faint colorful light in places where the sun was strong. It was very beautiful. "Wife, this is the place that Master arranged. Do you like it?" the treasure-seeking scorpion said to his wife. Although it had also gained a lot of weight during this time, it looked a little petite next to the sturdy female scorpion, but it didn't care at all. Whenever there was something delicious to eat or drink, it would give it to his wife first. After the scorpion was full, he would start to eat the leftovers. However, the female scorpion would leave a lot of leftovers every time. I like it. It's so beautiful. The female scorpion crawled inside and circled a few times, reluctant to come out. However, what it liked the most was the scorpion grass at the entrance of the cave. That was the spiritual grass that accompanied the scorpion nest, and it was also the smell that it had smelled since it was young. It was at ease and comfortable, and it couldn't be any better. As long as you like it. The treasure-seeking scorpion was also very satisfied with this nest, and it felt even more certain that it had followed the right master. Especially after Yunjioga gave them a bottle of cherry pills in the name of celebrating the housewarming, the husband and wife were so excited that they shed tears of gratitude. They said that they must hurry up and make scorpions, so that they wouldn't let down their master's expectations of them. You can't rush things like giving birth. You are still young, so don't be anxious. Let fate decide. Yunjioga comforted them kindly. Master. The husband and wife and the two scorpions were even more moved. They hooked their tails together, looking like they couldn't wait to make little scorpions right away. Yunjioga faked 2 coughs and tactfully retreated. When Yunjioga left the spirit pet room, she didn't expect to see Zishang standing behind her when she turned around. She didn't know what he was thinking, but he was extremely lost in thought. What are you doing here? You can't be peeking at them making little scorpions, right? Yunjioga looked at him with disdain, as if she didn't expect him to be such a demon. I can make little demons myself, why do I need to peek at them? Zishang came back to his senses. He blinked his eyes, and the spring light shone in all directions. He had a flirtatious look again. Hee, then do your best. Yunjioga patted Zishang's shoulder and went to the quiet room to prepare to meditate and cultivate. Before the news of the poison in her dantian came, Zishang could only hold back his dual cultivation. If the essence couldn't come out, where would she go to make little demons? So if Zishang wanted to, he could only do his best. Zishang wasn't annoyed. He followed Yunjioga to the quiet room and accompanied her to watch her cultivate. A few days after Yunjioga opened her cave, the omnipotent little fatty came to her door. How did you know that I live here? Yunjioga was really shocked when she saw little fatty at the door. My uncle told me. He has already recorded your cave abode. Little fatty huffed heavily with his hands on his knees. His face was covered in sweat. An outer sect disciple like him couldn't use the God Strider talisman at the sect peak. He could only walk up step by step. He was almost exhausted to death. Yunjioga didn't know that Jin Chuan would record her cave abode. But even so, Jin Chuan still hated it. But little fatty's words were really cute. Therefore, Yunjioga warmly invited little fatty in as a guest. Senior brother Yunjio, your place is amazing. Little fatty looked at the spacious and clean cave abode before him with a face full of admiration. A chi refinement cultivator could enjoy such treatment. Even the sect master's own son didn't have it. Why are you looking for me today? Yunjioga poured a cup of hot tea for little fatty. Little fatty picked it up and took a sip. Then, he told Yunjioga something very seriously, you're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.